Welcome to the Guy Pie Podcast, featuring Anthony, Chris, John, Sean, and Mark. This is a weekly podcast where five guys come together to make the ultimate conversational pie about the games they are currently playing.
Welcome to the Guy Pie Podcast. I'm Chris. Joining me is Mark.
What up?
Anthony.
Hey guys.
And John.
Hello, I'm glad to be here today, guys. How's everybody doing?
Good. Did your thing freeze, John, or is that on purpose?
I was gonna say, I didn't know if that was on purpose or not.
Oh, he put a picture of himself.
That's a big brain move right there. I respect it.
I did a thing.
All right. We're going to start today talking about Dave the Diver. Mark, I'm going to let you start off with this one.
Yeah, Dave Diver just popped up on the catalog a little bit ago, and I was expecting it just to be like, just fun, stupid little mindless game, but like it is genuinely so funny. The little animations and everything that happens, like when you upgrade something, and like they just go overboard with like the animations. Like, granted, it's all like pixel art stuff, but like they put a bunch of humor, a bunch of action and stuff into it, where realistically it shouldn't be. But I'm assuming like whenever you make the gun, when you have that like the nerdy guy in the chair, and it's like going overboard and just like out of scope. And then when you're inside the sushi bar and you're like upgrading a fish and something like that, and like he's doing a thing, chops off a head, and then it zooms in on the fish tank and the one fish. Oh. Yeah, like beyond that, just like the gameplay itself is pretty fun. Pretty much, you upgrade and you can go deeper and stuff like that. You dive into like the ocean, and like it's a special thing where the lore behind it is like it appeared one day, and every time people go into it, it's different every time. So like they just keep on swapping the maps around for every time you jump in, so it's like a little bit different each time. And you just try and catch fish, and then after you do a couple of fishing expeditions, you go into the sushi bar, and then you run like a little like chef thing where like you have to pretty much waiter all the people with the orders. Then you can hire employees to help you out. It has a bunch of different like kind of mechanics and stuff into it, and I've been enjoying it very thoroughly ever since I started playing it. One thing I did kind of notice, you have to really play the main story until a certain point, because if you spend a long time farming in the early game, it becomes super pointless very shortly into it, because then they adds a bunch of stuff that just makes it a lot easier. But I mean, it was still fun while I was playing. Yeah, it's for what it was. It is a really fun game. I'm definitely going to try and platinum it. I'm not even like halfway done. I have like only been playing it a few days. I got like 10 hours into it so far. So yeah, looking forward to getting my dive on some more. Hopefully I can finish it before Stellar Blade comes out. Yeah, it's a really fun game, and for those who have the catalog, definitely would say pick it up, because free is a very good price to play for something that's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I've been enjoying my time with it as well. You're definitely farther than me in it. I just fought the first technical boss today. I won't go into spoiler territory for that, but I've been really liking the silliness they've added to like the melee weapons you find throughout the ocean. Earlier today, I found the melee weapon Sea Snake, which is literally a snake you use as a whip and poison people. So it's just, you watch the animation of just like whipping somebody with like a live snake, and it's very comedic in that sense. But the gameplay loop to that is incredibly addicting. I was telling Anthony this the other day, where I was like, oh, I'll just like squeeze in like a quick hour. And then all of a sudden, like it's been 3 hours, and I just totally lost track of time, because you just get consumed. It's like you do the day stuff, the diving, and you're like, okay, well, now just go sell all this. And then after you get that dopamine hit of making all that cash, you're like, okay, well, now I want to go get more fish. And it's extremely addicting. It's beautiful to look at. I'm having like a really good time with it. I know, John, you said you played it way back. Have you played it on PlayStation since it came out?
No, I played it on my Steam Deck. Yeah, I feel the same way as you guys. It's a fun, quirky game, like a mishmash of genres, basically. Um, it is an absolute blast. I do love the humor. Yeah, like I might. No, I don't think I will get it on PlayStation because I don't feel like paying for it again. But yeah, it's fun. I will definitely go back to it on Steam, but maybe on my PC instead of my Steam Deck. But yeah, it's a good game.
Nice. And Anthony, you haven't picked it up. You've got a lot of stuff coming in the horizon, so you don't have any plans on picking it up currently. But any thoughts or questions on it?
So yeah, so for the gameplay, I was just watching some more of it. It looks fun. Like, do you find it difficult at any point? Like with like the deep dive part, not like the part where you sell the food and stuff, but the actual levels you're playing, gathering the fish. Do you guys find it challenging in any regard, or is it just kind of fairly simple, more relaxing, even though like there are boss fights and whatnot?
So like the boss fights, they're not like I didn't find them to be difficult. Like I've gone through two, and like the mechanics to them are super easy. And like it's as long as you're kind of paying attention, they're pretty easily won. The only thing I don't know if you've unlocked the night diving yet, there, Chris.
No, I haven't. Not yet.
Yeah, so you do unlock like it's kind of like a hard mode, if you will, where like during the day it's just like when you dive into the first area, it's just a little tiny fish swimming around, and you're like whatever. My first night dive, there was like a big school of fish. I was just like, oh, those are probably just whatever. I'll just catch a few. I harpooned one. I was going to get a few more, and then they all were essentially a school of little mini piranhas,
Oh
and they
no.
just started swimming after me. And then it's like, oh shit, okay, so then I got away from them, and then I found some other things, and they were all enemy fish that tried to hit you. Then I swam away, and there was a shark that. But like even that, like once I knew what I was doing, I went in there with a better like gun and stuff like that. So like it's not challenging in like a Dark Souls sense at all. Like as long as you are just kind of paying attention, you can get through the game pretty easily. Like
Okay.
even the shark fights, like if you don't have a good gun, you can easily just like loop them and then just keep on shooting with the harpoon, loop it, shoot with the harpoon until it finally dies and stuff. Yeah, like it's not a difficult game in any respect, but like it's just as Chris saying, like it's just like a nice, fun, mindless loop of just like nonsense and silliness. And like the one of the weapons that I found recently was like those like rubber chickens that make the noise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I found one of those, and it's just like the description of it was just like this is a rubber chicken. It shouldn't really do anything, but just try it out; it'll be fun.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
the biggest thing when it comes to diving, I imagine you might agree with me on this, Mark, is the biggest thing I would say is environmental awareness. So, like, when you go down, always be mindful of the oxygen tank placements and the escape pod placements, because that's the nice thing. You don't always have to swim all the way back up to the surface. As long as you plan out, like, your extraction point when you're swimming down, you'll see, like, the radio for the escape pod, which immediately brings you to the surface. Or if you want to explore further, you're at full oxygen, but you spot like an oxygen tank, you can make a note for that, continue further, and then backtrack to refill the oxygen because that's basically your health. So, like Mark said, yeah, the boss fights were pretty simple, not difficult at all. The only times I've ever really died is I got overconfident with how much oxygen I had versus where I was going. Because like yeah, I've had moments where I just swim into like one area, and then all of a sudden there's like a shark, a tiger shark, and then a bunch of like attacking fish, and like as they hit you, you lose the oxygen, and that's where you get like screwed over at. But yeah, no, the game is not difficult. I would say the only time I really found a difficulty at first was as like the bar area started to pick up in terms of like customers and not having uh hired any people. But like when I started hiring people, like everything got much more simplistic. Hired more chefs, so the food was getting out quicker, and then hired more servers, so it wasn't just me. Because that was like the annoying thing is your character is very overweight. So somebody's at the other end of the bar, they're dying, like they're getting pissed, their food's not there, and you get the plate and you go to run, and then halfway through the bar, you gotta like stop and catch your breath and all that. So, but yeah, no, yeah, it's definitely not difficult, and it's been a nice chilled experience so far compared to like having just gone through just very full big games like Rise of the Ronin and Final Fantasy Rebirth, which I got the platinum for Ronin, by the way. I'll just squeeze that in
Nice.
there.
Nice.
Any final thoughts before we move on?
Yeah, so I'll probably will check it out eventually, but yeah, I don't have the catalog, so the price point is extremely reasonable. So it's going to be a combination of if I get like a free period of time that I can fit it in, I'll probably pick it up then, or between now and whenever that time slot shows itself, I'll probably put it on my wish list because like even if I can only even 20% off of that, like it's already $26. Like that's so reasonable. So if I could get it for $20 or under between now and when I want to play it, that would be awesome. But like I said, if the free time comes first, I'll just pay the $26 and have a good time. So yeah, sounds like it'd be fun, especially if you're saying it's not as difficult as it might have appeared in some of the clips. Like it didn't look like it was hard. It's just some of like as soon as I hear boss fights and it's a side scrolling game, I start to think of like Metroidvania type games, which I know this is very different, but I don't play those, so I can't really tell you the difference besides the fact that it's underwater. So that's good to hear, and yeah, I'll probably buy it eventually.
All right, nice. So we're going to move on next to Fallout 4. I know a lot of us are planning on playing this when the next gen update comes out, but John, you've been playing it currently, right? So why don't you tell us how the experience has been going?
It's good. It's not my first time playing it. Being the best game in the series, as I was saying before, um, it's aged pretty well. I mean, I know they're doing like a next gen update, which is a pretty good reason to, I mean, purchase it now because it is on sale. I believe on PlayStation for like $6, and I think it's on Steam for like $12. Um, Basically, watching the show has gotten me into a Fallout fixation, and I've been trying out a bunch of different Fallout games, playing a little bit more like New Vegas and Fallout 4, and yeah, it's a thoroughly enjoyable experience altogether. I mean, exploration is nice. Helping all those settlements is great. You know, it's basically like every other subquest is helping those settlements. Character customization is nice. You can sculpt different parts of your face. Um, what was I gonna say? It's oh, I was modding it on PC, which is fun too. You can kind of get a graphical update through that. You can also add some silly things to it. Yeah, it's a good game. Like I recommend for anybody that hasn't played Fallout 4 who's been watching the show, just give it a go. I think it's the game that takes place like just before, not like immediately before the show, but like it's the most like in chronological order it's closest to the show. I do believe. Yeah. Yeah, it is.
Something.
Yeah.
Anthony, I know you were toying around with the idea of it, but you have 2 games coming out this week. Are you still hopping into Fallout 4, or are you going to kind of put it on the back burner?
It's gonna be kind of a wait and see scenario. Like I'll once I kind of see how those two games kind of fit into my schedule with like the consistent Destiny content going on, because that game's got me playing it. I usually play it weekly, Destiny, but it's got me playing more every week right now. So it's not going to be when it drops, but it could potentially be within the next, like the between 2 to 3 weeks. I might jump in. I just got to see how Stellar Blade, maybe even sooner. Again, how they fit in. Because if I end up like, oh, only sticking to say Iron Chronicles on the portal just before bed, where I can like play on my handheld, and then if say I only do Stellar Blade like 2 nights a week, and I want to do Sundays with it or something. But I still got to finish Ronin, which was what I wanted to do on the Sundays. So yeah, I'm not sure where it'll fit, if at all. So it's looking unlikely that I'll be checking it out when it comes out for with the upgrade.
No, that's definitely fair. There is like a ton of shit to play right now, and a ton of shit. Like I've got a couple things I got to backtrack on. But Mark, you're feeling the urge to go diving into those
Oh
vaults
yeah,
again.
I'll most likely. I don't know if it'll end up being like a full playthrough, but definitely going to hop back into that game once it gets its update and experience it in the new visual glory.
Yeah, I was surprised. So like when we last discussed 4, I said I never finished it, but I went back and looked at my trophies, and I was like 77% out of 100 for like the main game trophies. And I was looking, and I clearly finished the game. So I don't know what that says to me and how I absorbed that story that I didn't even remember finishing it. But the desire is there, having finished the TV show, to kind of immerse myself in that whole environment. And I know for sure personally, like we'll get into it later, but 76 is not the way for me for that game. But no, I'm excited just seeing all the weapons that were in the show kind of just lit that spark. So I'm definitely going to check it out, especially since I'm holding off on Stellar Blade. I feel the time. I feel like I have the time for it, so I kind of had that advantage there. Any final thoughts before we move on?
No, sir.
No, thinking good.
It's tricky because like this could blur into 76 talk and then TV talk, which granted we'll get to those later down the line. So it's like you don't want to blow the load all at once. But we will go into a topic that at this point is definitely weekly. Anthony, why don't you start us off with some Destiny 2 talk?
Yeah, so like I mentioned earlier, it's something I usually play every week, but lately I've been playing a lot more of it. And big part of that is the onslaught mode, right? Like I've been grinding. Like I've at this point, I think the running 10 waves at a time right now, I almost treat like I would the strike playlist, where I just grind it over and over. Granted, doing the legend, I need generally at least one other person. Like I've done it with you, Chris, and I've done it with Chad. Or if there's 3 of us, we can do that because it's a little more rewarding. But even by myself, I'll just run like the normal mode 10 wave runs and just rinse and repeat, like play it over and over again. And even though we have talked about how we kind of feel like, I don't know if we all agreed, but I know a few of you did, that it kind of feels, especially when you're doing the 50 wave run, that it doesn't feel as rewarding as we were expecting. The reality is, if you compare like strikes to the 10 wave onslaught, it is slightly more rewarding because you guarantee you get a weapon at the end, right? Instead of like you get to the end and you get legendary shards or sorry, not legendary, like enhancement cores, or like you're just hoping you get like a Vanguard engram, right? So I've been playing that a ton. We got lots of solid weapons. Still a couple god rolls I'm going after. So far, I think I'm only on one god roll. That is the shiny rendition, which is sad, but they are pretty rare, it seems, to get in general. So I'm kind of glad at least I have one. But we did get our first 50 legend clear. I've been in 2 now. We got one with Mike and Chad, and then me, Chris, and Chad. And it's tough. It's real tough. So much RNG is part of the equation to get to the end. Doesn't matter how good your build are or how good you are. You could just end up with a shit scenario and you are done. But we did it. We got the emblem. We still got a few other members. We're gonna get there though. I know Alex and Mark. I think we'll get you guys those emblems. Don't worry, we'll get them. I'm loving this mode, so I'm 100% down to play it like anytime someone wants to jump into it. And starting next week, I think it's next week, they are tweaking the rewards for it so that it is more rewarding than it is now, if I remember correctly. I don't remember the exact details on how it's more rewarding. I'm assuming more loot and trophies in general.
If I
I'm sure
remember
Chris.
correctly, trophies were getting a bit of a buff. The final
Oh,
chest on 50 gets an additional guaranteed weapon drop in it. And then as you play, so like say from the 1 to 50, each individual wave you do increases the odds of a weapon dropping when you finish a wave. And then once the buff gets to the point where you get the weapon at the random wave, it resets back and then keeps going. So like you'll also have the
oh,
chance at like waves as you continue to progress to get additional weapon drops.
oh, okay, nice. And yeah, so other than that's that's the new stuff, right? That's what is causing everyone to come back to the game. New players come to the game. Outside of that, we had double rep, double rewards Nightfalls this week or Vanguard this week, which was kind of a poopy one, but I played a decent amount. And then just grinding dungeons and some raid stuff, the usual. That didn't get we grinded Nezarec a bunch. I didn't get the shotgun, so
Yeah, well, I also don't have it, so.
Chris got another two of them though. So that's good. John, Chris is basically in the position you were with Vex.
Yeah.
Remember when you kept getting the Vex mythical quest?
He's gotten 5 of them.
Yeah.
It's because I'm not there, you know.
For
Oh,
here,
man.
John's first next like Nezarec completion, he'll get the shotgun. The next time we run it with him.
I get 3 at once.
All right.
But yeah, so that kind of concludes my weekly Destiny experience.
Okay.
for
I'm
episode.
going to actually go to you next, John, because you've been like slowly tipping your toe into the Destiny water.
I've been,
So
been
how have you been
slowly,
feeling it?
slowly dipping the tip of my dick into it.
Yeah, just
It's it's okay. I do really enjoy Onslaught. I think I played a little bit with Sean after the last podcast we did, and then one night I'm like that went fairly quickly. I think we did the mode where you only do 10, or like we died or something. But I the other night I was like, you know what, I'm kind of bored. I'm gonna do an Onslaught. I'm like quick Onslaught. Like I got about an hour, maybe like 45 minutes before I have to go to bed. And I think I chose the wrong mode. And before I knew it, we were at like round 45. And I'm like, I have to go to sleep, but I don't want to stop. And I do like the fact that every 10 rounds you get a nice reward for it. Because those 10 rounds go by like pretty quickly, surprisingly. Like hopefully at some point I can make it to 50. Maybe you guys can get me there with the legend.
Well,
I don't know.
if you want to do the legend, the 2 I've completed so far, they were literally a minute apart. The first one took 99 minutes, and the second one was like 100 minutes and something seconds.
Never mind. That sounds awful. I'm sure it is great and beating it is rewarding, but I don't think so. Yeah, but I plan on playing a little bit more this week, getting more into the Onslaught when I have time. I also have like Final Fantasy 16 to get into again, and just Fallout 4 has been taking a little bit of time, especially because the next gen update does come out in about 4 days. So I'll be playing that too. But yeah, I will be playing more Destiny. I am having a lot of fun with the Onslaught mode.
Yeah, it's definitely good to see. I don't know. Before I throw it to Mark, I don't know if you've done them too. I mentioned like the wish stuff to you earlier today through the messenger chat, but in the Hall of Champions where Shax is, I don't know if you've done the bounties that the robot has, like the quests, because when you do those, the first one you have to do is for like the pulse rifle that drops during onslaught. When you complete that, you'll get a guaranteed limited edition version of that pulse rifle with a curated specific perk slot set. But the main reason I say that is once you complete those, you're able to attune that specific weapon. So when you run onslaught, you have a 50% chance of that weapon dropping, so you can like target farm better. So I definitely recommend when you do like onslaught, be like work on those quests as well for sure.
Yeah, I haven't done any of those, but yeah, now that you mention it, I will. That sounds pretty good.
All right, Mark. Outside of the raid runs yesterday, any other like Destiny stuff going on for you this week?
No, so I got my new laptop this week, and then getting back into my photography stuff. That's consumed most of my week, just sort of getting used to all that, relearning all my settings and whatnot. But yeah, like I do. I remember I did say I was going to play a bunch of Vanguard this week to try and get that uh,
Oh, the
the
catalyst for
catalyst
Monte Carlo.
for for the Monte Carlo there. Thank you. Yeah, but I completely forgot about that until Anthony just said, "Oh, it was double rep for." I'm like, "Oh yeah, that's what I was supposed to do this week." So yeah, my ADD is obsessed onto camera stuff again this week. So unfortunately, I have not played it. The only time I played this week was with you guys the other day when everybody else got one of the fucking shotguns except me and Anthony.
Yeah, god damn it.
Yeah, I genuinely don't. It's genuinely annoying getting the gun over and over again because like I'm at that point with Root. Last week I finished all the weapons crafted, so for me, playing it is basically for helping you guys. I'm not really seeing any benefit from it. And so from that perspective, I'm getting annoyed when I keep fucking getting the shotgun because I want you guys to get the fucking shotgun. So I do genuinely feel for you guys. Yeah, hopefully next go around when it's farmable again, you boys will finally get your shotguns. Or well, like every now and then we do toss in a random run for Nazareth to try to get it, but yeah, that and like the
That's what it is. Whatever.
that's how she goes. But yeah, no, it was awesome to get the legend clear in. Um yeah, we lucked out, Anthony, in that run because we only saw one tormentor throughout it, not the usual two. So that was kind of a bit of
Yeah.
a relief. I did run a bunch of nightfalls this week. I have like 42 Vanguard engrams stockpiled to focus into like a nightfall weapon at some point this season. And after 25 goddamn clears for Ghosts of the Deep, I finally got the Navigator exotic
Nice.
trace rifle. Like, my god. I was getting
was
so
a rough
frustrated.
That was a rough one, yeah, dude. It was like that boss fight takes longer than the raid final boss fights. Yeah. It's brutal.
I have fun in that boss encounter, but then again, I just run around exploding everything while you guys do the work.
Yeah. The middle room, yeah.
Yeah, and create 1,000 orbs for you guys when you get back.
Yeah, no, I'm glad I got the catalyst. I got that done. Got the catalyst ready to go. I never want to look at that dungeon again. Although I say that, then tomorrow me and Anthony are going to farm the first encounter, just because a couple of the weapons are really overpowered. I was actually using the SMG from it yesterday in our Nezarec runs because it has Demolitionist Incandescent, and I was just like scorching everybody with it, so it was fucking really
I
nice.
did
But
hear that's like one of it's like a really good top tier one.
Mhm.
I think it was from like one of Clyde's videos or something back
I
when it
think I
first
saw
came out.
the same video.
Yeah, I also want to get a god roll for the rocket launcher, the one Anthony was talking about, where with like Envious Assassin and Bipod, he's getting like 5 to 6 shots in one clip for a rocket launcher, which is just fucking wild.
Yeah,
You
it's
get
pretty-
somebody with I can't remember any of the exotics. So I get the Wolfpack rounds getting procced, and like that's just crazy.
Yeah.
well, crazy.
Gallahorn, there we go.
The origin trait with that thing is like if you do a finisher, it does an emergency reload. So like you go into DPS, you dump your 5 or 6 rockets, and you instantly reload back to 2 rockets and fire 2 more. So like 7 to 8 rockets in one go.
That's pretty dope.
Freaking
Yeah.
just wild. Any final thoughts on Destiny before I move on?
Put it in your mouth.
All right, all right, John.
In your mouth.
Also been playing Fallout 76. How's that going?
Not as much as Fallout 4. I played it by myself for a little bit, and then Sean was saying, "Oh, he was playing it," so I played with him, which was a much more enjoyable experience. Um, it's definitely a much better game. I didn't play it when it came out, but I'm just going based off of what I heard. It's definitely a much better game now than it was when it came out because I mean there was no like human NPCs or anything like that. It was like also notably boring. It still has that kind of until you like level up more and get farther into the game. There was a lot of we'd get into an event, Sean and I, and we'd be like, wow, this sucks. Like, we don't want to finish. There's one in particular that I'm talking about. It's like you follow a robot through the town protecting it from ghouls as it like uses terminals to open doors. And it's just so painstakingly long and painstakingly boring. On the other hand, you get events like there's one where you're in like kind of like the Nuka world, like it's just a little like saloon, like like early like Western town type thing where it's like a shooting range and you have to like uh kill boards basically and put deposit the stuff into like this carriage and it moves the carriage and you get some pretty dope like weapon skins and weapons from it. I haven't experienced anything else like that. Sean is definitely saying that there is more like that like later on in the game, but I don't think I have it in me to actually progress anymore unless I play with him. Um yeah, otherwise, like it is pretty boring to play by yourself. I'd definitely play it with people.
Yeah, I gave it an honest go at launch. Like you said, they have added more stuff to it, but in my current mindset, it's like if I'm feeling that vibe to kind of get immersed in a Fallout world, logically from my point of view, it's like go to that single player core game experience where everything feels satisfying when you explore it, right? Because yeah, when
Yeah,
I think back to playing at launch and just walking around being like, the fuck is this? Like, it's just like
yeah.
this isn't Fallout. Like it
I don't
is, but
I
it's
don't
not.
want to I don't want to interrupt you or anything, but you said the word immersed in a Fallout game. Fallout 76 is such a hard game to get immersed in because you're just like microtransactions fucking everywhere. Like on your screen at all times, you can see like, oh, buy this, do this, you know? So yeah, it's definitely hard to get immersed into. If you want to get immersed into a Fallout game, like definitely go New Vegas, Fallout 4, Fallout 3. Don't do 1 or 2 because those games have not aged well. But yeah, sorry for interrupting, but
No worries. There is something like truly Fallout though about the concept of being bombarded with microtransactions in a way though, just with like how Fallout is with corporations. But I did end up Fallout New Vegas was on sale on the Xbox store for like $2, $2 or $3. So I ended up picking that up. I don't know if I'm gonna necessarily get to that sooner, but I do want to eventually get to it later. But yeah, no, I think my time is come and gone for 76. Mark, is 76 something you're considering or nah?
No, like I have no problem with like the MMOs and stuff like that. It's just if I like the single player series, like I remember when Elder Scrolls came out with Elder Scrolls Online, it was all right. And like by like it launched better than the Fallout one did, but like the what they have to do in order to cater to like an online experience, just I'd rather, as you said, I'd rather just play the single player game because like it's I don't really care about playing with random people. Like if I was playing with all of you guys, I'm sure it would be a lot more fun. But if I'm craving a Fallout experience, yeah, I just go and play one of the single player versions of that game because like it's more geared towards the experience of one person versus catering towards the experience of hundreds, if not thousands of people, right?
No, yeah, definitely. It's just yeah, even like you mentioned Elder Scrolls Online. I remember playing that when it came out and being like I get they wanted it to be like they were implementing it to be an MMORPG. It was a different team from like from instead of the people who made Elder Scrolls. But I just remember playing the online and just being like this doesn't feel gameplay wise like an Elder Scrolls game. It just
Exactly.
it
It's
just
exactly what I
it,
was going for.
well yeah, just yeah like it just like it just yeah. I definitely think is it so hard really to do an MMORPG and just like have that core experience? Like I don't know.
I think because like how it works in the like the main thing, because then it's going more or less skill based versus like having just like that standard number generator sort of thing. So like yeah, it could be done, but then you'd get the sweats in there, and then it would just ruin the experience for everybody else, right? They want to that's the main issue I think I find with a lot of the MMOs. It caters to everybody's experience versus just the single person experience. So like they want to make it so like the average level of people have fun where like the farther you get outside of that range it's not as friendly. You can get the people in there obviously that still like would dumpster anybody in like a PvP thing, but like it's kind of like watered down a little bit to what they could do in like a standard way of playing the Elder Scrolls or Fallout series games. Because like when you're playing like the regular ones, you can't just auto lock onto somebody and like it just like attacks and blah 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 and like there's no guarantee to anything, but then like you get the other ones like somebody could just stealth archer somebody from across the map because they learned, okay, if I sit here there's a door there, if I see them running here I'm going to put an arrow into that. It's like I don't know, you've probably seen some of the clips of some of the crazy stuff people have done in Skyrim, and it's just like that's just pretty much what the online experience would be. Like even in like a standard, it's just a PvE thing, there's always going to be those griefers out there who are just trying to taint the experience for other people. Like even in Helldivers, like they still have problems with people. Like at the extracts, people will just kill everybody in the Pelicans, then get on, and then everybody loses everything essentially. That's just my opinion.
No, I
I
think
think
you're right. Oh, go ahead, John.
I think the best format for MMOs, and it kind of sounds weird, is the month to month pay basis because you get less of that griefing. Because people aren't going to pay like $10 a month just to fuck with people, right? They're gonna actually play the game. I do believe Elder Scrolls Online has like a free to play kind of thing where you just buy the game and you can continuously play it. So yeah, I think maybe like griefers and MMOs are only a thing on like free.
I
Could be
have
wrong though.
seen actually just saw a clip of this again for the first time in a while. There's this guy in World of Warcraft where like he plays like this rogue build, and there's like a move that you can do where it'll change the direction somebody's walking in, and like he'll hide at the top of this really big elevator, and it's just like a single pathway going through, and then he'll be invisible standing in the middle of the pathway so the people can't see him. Then as they're running down the pathway, he'll throw this thing right beside them, which will make their characters turn 90 degrees and walk straight off the edge and die. And this is like on hardcore that he's doing it, so like that's significant.
So I've been
People just like the
wrong.
grief.
I was gonna say there are people out there who are like, who the idea of paying money to grief people, like, it probably excites them, right? Like, I definitely.
I would, yeah, I'd say probably excites them more because they're like, this person's paying money to be here, and I get to taint that experience.
All right, Anthony, any thoughts on Fallout 76?
No, not in particular. Like, even from what it was to what it is now, not too much has interested me. Even the Fallout series in general, like, I loved 3, but like I said in the previous episodes, like, it took me numerous attempts at playing the game before I actually got into it. And then similar to Fallout 4, I've attempted to play it a couple times and I didn't get into it, but um, I'm open to giving that another go. So I just think with my relationship with the Fallout series, I just don't see it going anywhere with something like Fallout 76. But I mean, it's great to see. Like, I've heard some stories. I can't remember if it was one of you guys who told me this or if I saw it online that like the whole PvP thing. What was our friend Chad? He was saying how a lot of the vets of the game are like unanimously agreeing to like not be as hostile as they usually are because they have an influx of all these new players and they want a better population in their game, right? So they're being more friendly. They're giving free stuff constantly to new players, which is really cool to see. Because you know some gaming communities out there are just toxic as hell. So it's nice to
So
see
they're
the opposite for once.
they're just grooming the new players to be a better challenge for them to hunt later.
Pretty much. Pretty much. But yeah,
Yes,
I'll
yes,
probably
drink this, eat this free pie, fatten up a little bit.
yeah, that's actually a perfect analogy. Yeah, they're fattening them up so they have something to do in their game.
Any final thoughts before we move on for Fallout 76?
No.
Okay. All right.
Just taste it. Don't put it in your mouth.
So next up, the Nintendo emulator Delta launches on the Apple App Store. Apple spent years keeping emulating apps off the App Store until reversing course earlier this month, according to The Verge. Delta supports NES, Super Nintendo, N64, Nintendo DS, Game Boy Advanced. It supports cheats, save states, backups, syncing, and more. Community-made custom controller skins, supports haptic touch, and local multiplayer gaming is available up to 4 players. I know, Anthony, you're Android. Besides me, who else has Apple? Does anyone have Apple? John? Okay, John, I'll start with you first. What are your thoughts on this?
I do loves me a good emulator, and I would love to have like an emulator on my phone. But I think before, like I've said this to you, Chris, and I think you agreed with me. It's like it doesn't have the same feel as actually playing the game as it was meant to be played on its original system. Like you were saying, War of the Lions. I think you were talking about Final Fantasy Tactics.
Yeah.
Like it just doesn't feel the same because you're playing like a copy of it somehow. It's kind of like a what's it called when you see a person that like it's like not quite a person. What's that called?
It's vague. We need more information.
A mimic?
Yeah, kind of like that.
I was gonna say we could get
There's
into
a word
dangerous
clone? Are you
territory
talking about
with how that question could advance.
I'm talking.
Doppelganger?
The words escape me. There's an actual like.
Skinwalker? Is that appropriate to?
You could say Skinwalker, but a Skinwalker would be a good example of what this particular thing is. Anyways, it's a skin. We'll just say it's kind of like seeing a
Well,
skin.
wait, since we're talking about follow, just call it a synth.
Yeah,
there you
it's like seeing a sin. I'm trying to think of the words because it's bugging the hell out of me. But yeah, it just doesn't seem right. Like you are looking at it and you're like, wow, yeah, this is Final Fantasy Tactics, but it's just something's off. Something's not right. You just have that feeling. In that aspect, like I would rather play an actual copy of a game, let alone like instead of playing like an emulated version of it. But yeah, and I don't know how long this will last because Nintendo does have kind of like a habit of removing emulators, and I think the only legalities of it is like you actually have to own a physical copy of the game to have a virtual copy of the game. But I could definitely see this like just being used and abused. So I think Nintendo will take care of it pretty quickly.
Yeah, I think you are right with how Nintendo is with them. Chances are we'll probably see it shut down at some point. But yeah, it's funny like you mentioned like our previous discussion because like that whole concept actually re-popped up in my head a couple days ago. I went to play Final Fantasy Tactics Advanced on my Ally, and it didn't feel like right. It didn't feel authentic to the point where one of the reasons why I'm definitely not getting Stellar Blade now is I went to our local store, the Game MD, and picked up a Game Boy Advanced SP along with it, Final Fantasy Tactics Advanced and Fire Emblem. And then just playing it on the Game Boy just brought me back to that core experience, like that feeling of like when I played it back then. Whereas when I tried playing it on the Ally, and for the reason why I won't try playing it on my phone is it just it doesn't feel right. Like as to what you said that we've discussed.
Uncanny Valley. Uncanny Valley. That's what I was trying to think of. Sorry.
No problem. But I've got nothing against people who do like emulating. Like I'm all for you do you. It's just for me mentally in my mind. It feels weird. I'm gonna go with Anthony next. You don't have an iPhone. Do you find yourself emulating a lot on Android because it's had it for all these years?
Yeah, so I've been emulating stuff for decades before I ever even owned an Apple device because I used to be Apple. What caused me to switch was just the drastic limitations Apple has in comparison. One of them being the emulation thing, but like what the bigger talking point where the emulation comes in is the fact that you are limited through the Apple App Store and that's it. Whereas Android, there's not only other app stores, but you can sideload things. I mean, at your own risk, obviously. Um, but I do generally emulate. Haven't in recent years, but my pick of choice wouldn't be a phone unless I owned a device like, say, a Backbone, because the touchscreens, like, I don't mind. Like, I'm not in the same pool as you guys, I would say, as far as like playing of the actual game uh, emulated, but the touch controls is just garbage. You need like physical real shit, and that my general choice over the years it was when I had PSP. I did it on there, or an actual computer is a great option. But I like the hand. If it's handheld, which is what I mainly emulated, I like the handheld to be in handheld. So nowadays it would fall on my 3DS or my PS Vita, which is like the things you listed that this Delta emulator can do. I can do name basically any system all the way up until like PS1 generation. I can do it. Like it's not limited to like these 5 options. It's like anything from like Atari to Dreamcast, or maybe not Dream. I can't remember now. I can't remember where it goes with the Sega systems, but there is Sega options in there. But no, No, yeah, I don't. So, in my opinion, I don't know if Nintendo could really do anything about it because they haven't done anything about it with the emulation software through the Android store. And I think where the catch is, it's not illegal. The emulation, its program itself is not what's illegal. It's the ROMs. And I don't think you're right there, John. Like owning a physical copy doesn't entitle you to a digital, like or a ROM of it. Like that's more of an argument I think people who do it use to like their own moral argument of why they're like some people will be like there's people against it, for it, and then like the middle ground where people will be like, well, I paid my money, so like I think it's okay that I do it because I paid the company. So which is a fair, if that's where you want to stand, that's fair. Um, the question is for me because haven't had Apple in a long time. Um, you may be able to get this emulator, but how are you going to get the games for it? Because generally speaking, when you download it, it's just going to be the emulator. You're not going to open it up, and it's not going to have a bunch of games in it. You're going to have to go and get the games yourselves by illegal means. Well, illegal. Um, so how do you do that on an Apple device? If you
Vim,
can't, can you download outside the App Store now? I guess is the
yeah,
question.
I think you can like. I think there's a way to download things off of Vim's layer. I
Oh,
think.
yeah, Vim's Layer. That's a great one. Yeah, that's where I
Yeah.
get most of mine.
Hmm.
Shout out to Vim's Layer. But yeah, regardless though, I am happy for the Apple users because it's about damn time because they I don't I never understood like I was one of them. I was one of the Apple be like, Apple's the better product. And I to a degree I think you could argue the interface and stuff is a lot more cleaner, more user friendly, but there's just so many limitations they apply to you and like the stereotypical Apple owner is like they're acting like they're like posh and like the superior race. Meanwhile, like they're so like crippled in their ability to do things with their device. So at least they're getting slowly over time. It seems like they're getting better and better with what they can offer. So who knows? There may be a time where I go back to Apple, but yeah, happy for the Apple users that they're getting this. It's great.
I'd like to say, as like a person who's been an Apple user at this point, I think now for most of like my cell phone having life, I don't think I'm better than anybody. I like the
Well,
ecosystem. All right.
not you. But, the stereotypes, right? The stereotypes you
No,
see
that's
out there.
fair. Yeah.
And the thing is, too, like to really utilize it, unfortunately, and this is a big part of why I switched, was because to fully utilize that iPhone, you got to have an Apple TV and you got to have a Mac PC or a Mac. Is it still called a PC? I don't know. Like all your
MacBook.
devices need to be Apple, or you can't utilize your phone to its full capacity.
Yeah, Mark, you're right. Yeah, MacBook. I think they still make iMacs, like the desktop versions. But yeah, the
Okay.
MacBook, like Mark said, is the laptop version. Speaking of Mark, do you like emulate via your phone? I don't know.
I've never emulated via my phone. I did do some on my last laptop, but like it wasn't like super long lived. But I did like get like a classic N64 controller just with a USB port to play all like the stuff in there. One thing I did appreciate is like when I emulated Pokemon Blue, and one thing I liked was like there was like a times 30 speed on it. So like grinding for Pokemon stuff like that. Like, yeah, I
Yeah.
could do 3 hours worth of grinding in 5 minutes. It's just hitting back and forth and just hitting the A button, just do auto attack on the first one. Yes. Emulating is just fun. Like if I ever get the itch to play one of those super old games, I'm sure I could easily find one, or I'll just ask Anthony what to do. But yeah, I mean, like it's nice that the Apple people are getting that option. I will never go Apple, so I'm completely indifferent about what their stuff can can get. But like, it's nice that they have that option now. Uh, all the power to them. Hopefully, they can get some nice emulating time in and experience those older games anew.
Shout out to Gold Sun on GBA. Check it out, Apple users. Do it.
So like I will say, before we move on, as somebody who doesn't like to emulate, without Nintendo is so like dead set against it, just like, okay, if you're gonna be dead set against people emulating your games, make these games accessible. Like have the
Yeah.
Pokemon games on the Nintendo Switch. Because when I went to
Right?
pick this up at like the game, like the Game MD and all that, I was looking at the other GBA games, and I was telling Anthony, Pokemon Emerald is like $240.
Jesus.
Which is
Like,
crazy.
yeah.
Crazy.
So it's just like
Literally a year ago,
Do I have that
it
one?
was half that, if even that.
it's just it's wild because it's like people want to play these games, but so their options are the illegal like emulating or uh freaking paying $240 for it, or it's just
Yeah.
it in my opinion at a certain point once a game is out of distribution where you can no longer officially buy it new retail, I feel like there needs to be a discussion of like, okay, emulating is acceptable in those terms because it's not available for broad distribution most of the time. It's so difficult nowadays. Like I would love to play like Emerald on this, but I am not dropping that much money to pick that up. It's
I might have one like right there. I'll check when we go to our break.
all right though. But it's just like it's freaking wild. Like even like I'll be honest with you, like Fire Emblem, like I love that game, so I was okay with doing it, but that sent me back 84. Like,
Oh jeez. Yeah.
Yeah.
but thankfully
It,
Tactics was only 34. So like,
the general idea for those games, aside from the select, like certain ones they were just worth a lot. It was generally like they were only hitting those price points if you still had the box for them because no one kept the boxes. But now just the cartridges alone are going up so high. It's crazy. Yeah, they really got to do something accessibility wise because I mean, it'll tank a lot of the prices for these collectors out there paying these premium dollars, but frankly, I don't care. And that's someone as a collector. Like I'd rather have accessibility than have something shiny in my collection.
I just looked at the cover art. I have Sapphire, not Emerald.
but even Sapphire and Ruby, I think were still pricey. I imagine Anthony will be able to look that up right now.
Yeah, I know. I have Sapphire, I have Crystal, and I have Silver. I'm pretty sure all
Crystal's
three of those are.
worth a good
Crystals.
chunk, right, Anthony? I think we looked that up the other day. Like in
So Sapphire right now loose is coming on average of $115.
What? 115? Jesus, I need to sell some shit.
Crystal we just looked up the other day, and it was up there too, $200 loose.
200? Jeez. It was like 85 a year ago.
The only thing I could think of that is playing a part in this as well is the fact that the exchange rate right now with the US to Canadian dollar is like getting pretty up there. But that wouldn't cover the whole difference. Like there's no way like a 1.4, 1.38 exchange rate would cause the prices to show that high.
Yeah.
But it's getting crazy, man. And I don't know what happened. I slowed down on collecting over the last year and a half, just financials because of finances and stuff. And it's just gone crazy with these Pokemon.
That's insane.
it chose the wrong time to get back into like wanting to collect Game Boy games, man.
Oh man.
Freaking! I will say, Griff's hooking me up. I told him I was starting to get into like, I basically my mindset is I want to collect the games I'm kind of nostalgic about. So he sent me a photo of just some games that he had bought from like a yard sale that he was going to give me dirt cheap, and one of them is the Hobbit game for GBA, which I played a good chunk as a kid and I really dug. And the other is Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 for GBA. So cool,
Nice.
like $10 for the two of them. So I was just like, yeah, cool, I'm cool with that. But yeah,
Good day.
I would like to get silver and red, but who knows how much those are fucking.
I think I might also have Silver.
I would buy if you got silver. I'll definitely. I can't spend 200 on crystal, but I'll
I know. I also have Pokemon Yellow as well. I can
Nice.
see it right there.
Let's
Mark's
see
got
what
the
silver
hookups.
is. I mean, it's not as crazy as I expected. It's coming in at average of $92 loose, but like just the cartridge.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Soul Silver is the one that's
Yeah, the
crazy.
DS one. That's fucking expensive.
I think I also have Soul Silver.
Jeez, Mark, you're sitting on a pile of gold right now.
Maybe I'll have to look through my
Yeah.
stuff.
You want to know Soul Silver's value?
Anthony's gonna have to like
Let
come over
me
one
look
day
up
and
the
just
cover art.
value like everything in your collection for you.
He just comes over, put on like those white gloves.
To find the do you have the box for it? Like the case, I mean?
No,
Yeah. You just have the cartridge?
I think so. I might not have that one, but I'll have to check.
So just the
The
cartridge
cover art
is
looks
100,
familiar.
180, just the cartridge.
Jesus.
And that's
Yeah.
just the cartridge too. It's, Jesus. All right. Let's
Anyway, back to the show.
let's move on from these depressing games
Got
that are
over-
so expensive. All right. Next up, we
my God.
got a major Sonic 3 casting. Keanu Reeves will be voicing Shadow the Hedgehog in Sonic 3. He will join Ben Schwartz, who plays Sonic, Jim Carrey, who's Dr. Robotnik, Colin O'Shaughnessy, who plays Tails, and Idris Elba, who plays Knuckles. It is currently set to release December 20th, 2024. John, how you feeling about this?
I thought it was just a rumor, but I kind of dug a little bit deeper today and saw that it was not just a rumor. And I have to say, like the Sonic movies or not, which, okay, I love the Sonic movies. So far, they've just been like fun, action packed. I know there was a little bit of a stink about like the character design before the first one came out, but like all that shit aside, like the Sonic movies or not, you have to give them credit that they are just fucking bang on with the voice actors. Like Idris Elba is the perfect Knuckles. Ben Schwartz as Sonic is fantastic. And if you listen to Shadow in Sonic Adventure 2 Battle, you can definitely hear Keanu Reeves. And you could definitely just assess that Keanu Reeves would be the perfect choice for this. His voice is just perfect for Shadow. And I'm nerding out because it's Sonic, but that's amazing. Like that's such good news. I'm so excited, and they just keep hitting shit on the nail with these movies.
Yeah, the casting so far has just been fucking top notch. Anthony, how are you feeling about Mr. Reeves joining the Sonic world?
Yeah, like I just watched the first two within the last 6 weeks. I can't remember when. Me and my kid just I was I think I was playing Power World, and he was sitting watching me, and he wanted to watch something, and I'm like, okay, I'll put something on my other monitor. And next thing you know, I'm just standing in my base waiting for eggs to hatch while him and I are watching uh, Sonic. We ended up going through both of them, and I'm not a big Sonic guy by any means. I played the one of the I think it was Sega Saturn, but yeah, I wasn't by no means a Sonic fan. Not that I don't hate him either, but I thought the movies were great. I did I think the Mario movie was a bit better, but that aside, like both movies I thought were great, fun time. Um, did not expect them to be as good as they were. Um, and Jim Carrey kills it in this movie. And like you guys said, the voice acting. Idris Elba in the second one killed it. Whoever the guys you mentioned play the other ones, I'm not familiar with them, but they killed it too. And I definitely agree with what John said about the. Oh yeah, I forgot. Yeah, obviously I played Sonic Adventure 2 Battle. We've talked about this, mainly the Chow Garden stuff, but me and my friend we would trade off playing, and I saw a ton of Shadow in that game. And you are 100% right, John. Like him talking in that game and just picturing it as Keanu talking, it fits perfectly, and I think he'll kill it. Just like the way even his normal talking voice, right? Like think of when he talks, like if he just changes like to a more like grumpy kind of a dick mood in the way he talks, his current tone would even fit the character, you know? So I think it's going to be great. And there's a pretty good chance at this point that I'll end up going to theaters with my kid to see it when it comes out. December, you said?
Yeah, December 20th, 2024. That's what the Twitter account is currently saying the
Oh,
release
okay,
date for.
nice. Nice holiday movie.
Mark, how
Good
you
time.
feeling about this?
Honestly, I've been meaning to watch them. I just looked up. I don't have Paramount Plus. It's on. I'm assuming it's not on anything else besides Paramount Plus.
You can buy it on Prime. I think that's about it.
Okay.
I can send
Yeah,
you a website if you want.
I would probably look at the through the website, but yeah, the movies look great. I mean, I love Keanu Reeves. I don't think I've seen a movie with him in it that I did not like. Uh, he's just a great actor. I feel like he definitely would be able to play like that darker sort of Sonic character better. Well, not better, good. I don't have anything to really compare it to, but yeah, I mean, like the movies, like I know you guys are big fans of them. From what I've seen, the movies seem like they were just fun. I'm glad that he's getting a spot in it because I think he'll definitely be able to bring something to the table. And yeah, maybe I'll try and watch the first two soon.
They got to do a sequence where Shadow does like some John Wick style stuff.
I mean,
That'd be-
how can you not?
So,
I mean,
yeah.
Shadow does use guns in that one game. I'll just say.
See, there you go. He's definitely going to be John Wick in it.
There it is.
Yeah, so I like the first and the second film. Knuckles was always my favorite Sonic character. So Idris Elba was phenomenal in that role, which I totally forgot. This week, actually, I believe. Yeah, April 26th, the first episode of the Knuckles TV show comes out, which is like the spin off
Didn't
of the
even know they're making
movies.
TV.
Yeah.
That's
So,
Is it
interesting.
him?
yeah.
No shit.
Yeah, it's set in the whole world. It's him. I guess he's supposed to go on like a road trip or something with he I think he was like a cop too. He was like a bit of a chubby guy. It's been a while since I've watched the movies.
Oh, Paul Blart Mall Cop.
No, I'm referencing a character
Universe.
in the actor's name is Adam Pauly. I don't know if anybody's ever seen Happy Endings. He was in that. Oh, he's fantastic in it. Yeah, no, I'm excited. Like to repeat what John said, the casting for this has been phenomenal. I think the thing I really appreciated is not to say an unknown, because like Ben Schwartz I knew from Parks and Rec, and I knew from like some significant roles, but nothing consistently mainstream, I'd say. Like not like when you compare him to Jim Carrey, Idris Elba, and Keanu Reeves, he's definitely up until now like he was in a different kind of tier, but I appreciated that casting because I really love his portrayal as Sonic. I think he really gets the essence of the character. And that goes to show, I think, with what we'll see from Keanu. Because so far, in terms of casting, everyone has seemed to really get the essence of their characters. Like, even Jim Carrey as Robotnik, like, he gets, like, just like that over the top cartoony, like, aspect to it. And this time around, I guess we're supposed to see he's like depressed from like losing. So we're supposed to see him like out of shape. So we might actually see the more iconic Robotnik design and all that. So I'm freaking excited for this. I can't wait to see it. Shadow is a really dope character. So
Also, Jim Carrey did come out of retirement for this movie as well. So
that's true.
Jim Carrey didn't fall on the Robotnik role. The Robotnik role fell onto Jim Carrey. Like he's perfect for it.
It's just like the Grinch. Like it was just made for him, you know. Just,
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I'm definitely excited. Any final thoughts before we move on? All right, so next up, we're going to talk about the Fallout TV series. Last week when we talked about it, you guys hadn't finished it yet, right? Only Sean did, I think.
I finished it.
You had finished it when we talked about it last? Oh.
No, I was only on the second episode when we
Oh.
talked about it last.
Yeah. I was just more so mentioning last week, just where everybody was at. So okay, so now we've all finished it. I'll start us off because I hadn't.
No.
Oh, you haven't?
I haven't finished it.
Okay.
No,
So he's saying he has finished it and to talk about it in its entirety.
Okay, I'm going to spoil everything. No. Okay, so we'll definitely avoid spoilers since John has not finished it. But yeah, I finished it today. I really liked it. Walton Goggins was definitely like one of the standouts for me, and the actor who played Lucy's brother, I actually really enjoyed his role in the Vault storyline and like how he developed from kind of being that I can't say. I literally just said no spoilers, and I was just about to go into spoiler territory.
No spoilers, but this entire storyline goes like this.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I really enjoyed the show. They nailed the humor of the Fallout universe. They nailed the design. Everything, like I just watching things. It felt like you're immersed in the Fallout world. And I really appreciated how subtle the opening was with just the TV and the trademark like Fallout sounds. Like it wasn't like it didn't overstay its welcome, the opening, like how House of the Dragons, Game of Thrones, you know how they have those long openings that while they are iconic, at a certain point you're like, can we get on with the show? This one it's like short and sweet. Yeah, no. I thought it was a really great adaptation. I would probably say myself, because I think this was something that was brought up last week, like The Last of Us versus Fallout. I think we kind of got into a bit last week.
Yeah.
I would say, in terms of what I liked better as an adaptation, I liked Last of Us better. But I am kind of biased because overall I like The Last of Us, especially the first game, more compared to like the other, like the Fallout world. But there is something to be said about the Fallout show and how original a lot of it was and how it felt like a new experience. So like props to that. I will go to Mark next. So what were your thoughts? No spoilers like I almost did on Fallout.
Okay, so 100% spoiler, going episode 1 to the last, everything that happens. No, honestly, the show overall, like I went into it with pretty high expectations, and I was not let down. Every single episode brought something new. Like I enjoyed every single experience from all the episodes. I don't feel like it necessarily dragged at any points. Like even some of like the slower things still had like a good amount of intrigue and stuff like that to keep the pace going for me. He's saying like the humor was there was seriousness, like the intensity of some of the fight scenes. I like how they didn't try and like downplay the gruesomeness of some of the things that happened. Yeah, like overall I feel like they did a fantastic job with it. I would definitely recommend anybody who, even if they aren't a fan of Fallout series, it's still a good series to watch. Obviously knowing a little bit about Fallout beforehand will help, but they do explain like kind of how everything works. One of the things I did really appreciate is like they stayed as true to a lot of the source material as they could. Like there obviously there were some slight changes and stuff like that, but that's what it was. It was slight. It wasn't anything like over the top, like we're inventing this new thing just to put into it, which is what I really appreciated. So what we see in a lot of these adaptations. One thing to continue on with what you said, Chris, I do get what you're saying with that. So like, because like you said you're not like the biggest Fallout fan, right?
like I definitely appreciated my time with 3 back in the day.
Yeah.
It just like in terms of like where I would rank my love for like Fallout, like and like versus like Last of Us. I really love the first Last of Us game. So like that I put over everything else, like in terms of Fallout. The part Last of Us Part Two, I enjoyed, but
Yeah.
just yeah,
So what I feel like that because when they did that series, they stuck to the story. So like what happened in the game, obviously they skipped some of the parts, they changed things slightly so it would work better cinematically, like the gas masks and stuff like that they didn't have in the show because like it would be awkward having to try and film through the gas mask, which I understood, like, makes sense. But like they stayed faithful to the story, so it's a story you already enjoyed, and now you're getting to see like all of these actors and stuff bring it to life, and they did so phenomenally. I really liked that series as well. So I feel like that's kind of like what it has going for it. But like also like so how they did that and how they did follow, I think is a very good sort of start for a lot of like the things video game adaptation going, because Last of Us was very loyal to the material it was going off of, and Fallout was loyal to the source material, but they made a new story. So like both are good examples of how to go about it. Like you want to make this story that's in the game into like an actual show, stick to what happens in the game and don't and change as little as possible. Versus like the Fallout one where they didn't necessarily follow the same story as like the courier from New Vegas or all the other things, but they brought in a completely new thing, but they stayed faithful to the essence of what Fallout is. So I really appreciate uh, the way things are going for that, and hopefully other people can take a look at this series and Last of Us and stuff like that for when they're trying to do these adaptations in the future, because like it's a couple of very good sort of case studies, if you will, on how to do it right.
yeah. I do know for a long time Bungie has been working on doing a Destiny TV series, and if that ever sees the light of day, I would prefer they take the approach of Fallout, where like take that universe, but like kind of like make your own original stuff within that universe, make it its own kind of experience, just surrounded by the lore of things. I think it would fit that kind of format a lot better. And like you said, Fallout did a fantastic job with that presentation, and like if you think about it, that Fallout TV series, like like you said, is essentially it's almost as if it was like a sequel game with like the
Yeah.
whole series, like which is kind of cool when you think about it like that. Anthony, what were your thoughts on Fallout?
It had for me, like I said, I only played the third one and I loved it, but I would say I'm not like a huge Fallout fan. I'm just I like you, Chris. I enjoyed the time I had with it, and I do want to enjoy more time. I'm gonna attempt at some point with four for a third time. Hopefully it clicks, but it had a really strong beginning, which hooked me straight away. And they stuck the landing really good too. Like it was phenomenal. Um, like even as the show was going on, I think I found the ending gave me what I wanted. As I was like the things that I was like, this is what I want. As I was watching the show, it gave me what I wanted by the end. Um, the middle area was strong. There was just for my personal tastes. I mentioned it before. There's a couple storylines or like characters you follow that I didn't find as strong as others. So not to say they were bad, but I just in some cases I found myself saying to myself, I'm like, oh, it's this one, you know. Then I would watch it and enjoy it, but it was kind of like I had my favorites, I guess. But yeah, it was really good. I still, as someone who never played the Last of Us games, I probably would still pick Last of Us over this one. Um, but it's for very different, like they're very different. So it would be hard to kind of like put them together in my head, just because not only are they different in like story and what's the word, like the not the
Structure?
atmosphere. No, Last of Us is a very serious like drama.
The
Whereas
tone?
this, the tone, yeah, because I know there's like serious moments in this, but like you said, like part of the World of Fallout, there's like a very strong comedic element, which they nail. So like they're very different genres, I guess, or they have a lot of overlapping. It's hard for me to like jive the two of like which one's better. But if I had to pick one, I probably would say Last of Us. But that aside, that's not really what we're talking about here. But anyways, I really enjoyed it. Mark, sorry, John, you said you haven't seen any of it, or
I'm on episode 4, I think.
four? Okay,
Yeah.
okay, yeah. That's one thing with shows dropping at once. Like
It's hard
I
to
can't
tell
even say
where,
anything
yeah.
because I don't know where one ends and one begins. Uh, yeah. Anyone hasn't watched, I definitely recommend watching it. Walton Goggins, man, killed it, killed it. Like I said before, it just makes me want to go watch Justified again because he's so good in that show.
So, John, where are you at? Like in terms of how you feel about it, where are you at so far?
I love it. From what I've seen so far, I think it's a fantastic show and a very accurate representation, adaptation of Fallout. Um, my hopes are all in like the character development. I'd really like to see, because I'm kind of seeing where it's going with like the Vault Dweller, seeing like the Vault Dweller adapt to the world above and like becoming some sort of like like they said in the show, like some kind of animal. Um, I'm really looking forward to seeing Maximus's character development. Just from the first like 3 episodes, you see like a huge like change in him. Like he starts off kind of like the like angsty like uh Brotherhood of Steel like recruit, becomes a squire to a knight, and then like I don't want to like spoil anything for anybody that hasn't seen the show, but like he just becomes like something entirely different by the third episode, which is fantastic. That's my biggest excitement, is just seeing the character development and seeing where they take this story, um because it's all been like extremely interesting and hooking within the first 3 like episodes. Unfortunately, like I took on like other things this week, making my busy life even busier. So it's um I will end up finishing it by hopefully uh like the next couple days. But yeah, like I love it so far. I think it's a fantastic show.
Yeah, I think if you have it finished by next week's episode, toward the end of the podcast, before the final topic, I think we'll just do like an all-out spoiler talk about it, or we don't have to worry about like spoiling anything because we'll all have seen it, and then we'll just kind of go over like the specific stuff like that we really enjoyed and all that. Any final thoughts before we move on?
Stick it in your radiated mouth.
All right. The next up, we got the Grounded Fully Yoked Edition trailer. I threw this one on there because I played Grounded back in the day. I didn't necessarily think it was like anything that would catch your guys' interest, but I figured it's something to kind of fill some space and time. So yeah, they released the official launch trailer for Grounded, which is now, on top of being available on Game Pass, Xbox Series X and S, and Steam, is now available on Nintendo Switch, PS4, and PS5. The trailer's quick and short, highlights gameplay elements such as the building. Um, I'll say I'll just say my initial thoughts of back when I played Grounded, which was at the launch, which was early access. It had a lot of potential at the time. It was a fun twist on survival elements that just gave you the vibes of Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. It was kind of like cheeky and unique. Um, it's crazy to think that it was like from the people who make the Outer Worlds and all that, Obsidian and all that. Like they work on a lot of shit, man. But no, I thought it was like a fun, cute little game. Sean, I'm trying to remember. Did you play back with me and Sean for that? No. Do you have any thoughts on this game?
Yeah, meh. Like I do like survival craft games, but even like just like looking at this one, seeing like how it's nothing like new or special, or even reading like the fully yoked like update, I'm like, they're obviously not going towards like finding new people to play the game. They're just going for like um pleasing the people that are already playing the game or have played the game, because like reading through it, I'm like, what the fuck does any of this mean? Um, y- yeah, like it is a cute like game. I've seen gameplay of it, obviously, but yeah, it doesn't really interest me all that much. Even being like a survival craft like fan, I can't see myself like getting into it at all.
No, that's totally fair. Anthony, how about you?
Yeah, I don't know. So I have a weird relationship with the genre because there's a few that I've played and I've gotten really invested and addicted for a burst, like almost like a just like a burst of time, and then it drops off. But the one of the biggest aspects of those is there's usually a specific detail that hooks me, and nothing about this particular one hooked me because I know that, like, for example, because a lot of the things you said you that attracted you to it, all that actually deters me from it. Like the Honey I Shrunk the Kids aspect, like for the lack of a better phrasing, just kind of sounded a little stupid to me. Um, and just like the cutesiness of it, which is for example, the ones that hooked me were like Ark, which is very like it's dinosaurs, man. Like it's not cutesy in any way. I mean, I guess unless you paint like a baby dinosaur with the spray paint or something. But and even though you could argue Power World is cutesy, let's be honest. What hooked me there is my love for the Pokemon series growing up. Like that hit me in a very specific place to get me into it. But I did have a window of time where I could have, because my friend Dustin and his one buddy Noah, they played, maybe even still play this game a lot, and I've had my opportunity to jump in with them, with the game not being that crazy expensive, but I just opted out. But it's good to see a game like at this, like, how long has it been now since it's been out of early access? It's got to
Me and
be
Sean
decent.
were playing this when I was streaming on Mixer, which was like
Jesus.
Oh,
pre-pandemic. Like so.
yeah. So, I mean, it's good to see it's still getting sizable updates at least. So, obviously, even though I'm not one of them, it does have a solid fan base that it's continuously putting content up for. And this was one of the ones that just came over to PlayStation, or is coming,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. This is one of the 4 Xbox exclusives alongside Hi-Fi
Okay.
Rush, Pentiment, and Sea of Thieves.
Okay, yeah. See, in a scenario where if I did have the catalog and it went on there, which I don't think it is, but I might give it a try, but I just don't want to pay just because I'm like pretty positive I wouldn't stick with it. But if I had a free way to try it, I might give it a go. But other than that, yeah, cool to see some new updates though.
Mark, what are your vibes on this?
Definitely won't be getting it, but like it does look like a fun game. It's just kind of what Anthony's saying. Like there are certain of those survival games which are fun. I think me and Anthony actually talked about this when we were playing Return of the Mines of Moria. Like that game was fun. I didn't really focus on the building aspect. I just pretty much made a makeshift base just to store
Yeah,
materials in, and
just
then like
explore,
the
right?
yeah, and just go and explore and just enjoy the environment of the game. Like I did, like I enjoyed it so much I ended up platinuming it. But like that's also in a universe that I very much enjoy. So like, Honey I Shrunk the Kids was a good movie, but it's not Lord of the Rings. So like, I wouldn't be able to invest enough into like because like I know on that one I'm pretty sure you have to build proper bases from like the ground up, so to speak, and like I do kind of like that sometimes, but it has to be very specific, and it's just not one of those environments very specific. As Anthony's saying too, it's like it's good to see that they're still updating it and like it still has like a loyal player base. I every once in a while I'll see some like crazy build stuff on TikTok of somebody like, let's see if I can one shot this boss with this super ultra OP build that I found. Like it is nice to see that it's still getting its time in the spotlight, but it's just not for me.
No, that's totally fair. I will speak for Sean a little bit right now, since he's not here, in the fact that he might argue against my full on cutesy statement because of the spiders, which can genuinely like jump scare the fuck out of you. But
That's a game where there's a setting to turn the spiders into like
it's like
something
spaghetti
else.
or something like that, or
Yeah.
like strings. Yeah, yeah. Because like other people who had fears of spiders, they fucking
A lot of
it's
games are
great.
doing that.
Yeah.
Like if there's spiders in the games, they have like an arachnophobia mode where they'll actually like tone it down.
I mean, it's a good form of like, I guess you could say accessibility in that aspect. I know people hate being liberal with accessibility, but it is that because it's people who have a fear of spiders, right? So you're accommodating them.
I wish they would. I wish they would do the same shit with clowns.
I wish like there was a clown option for every game where
Like, why
everything
don't
was a
they
clown.
do that?
Just-
Oh man.
So
Clowns are
last night we were raiding, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go get a drink, and I just tap water, and then I go to open the freezer, and as I go to take a drink from my cup, I feel something solid like touch my lip. I'm like, oh, did I grab the wrong cup? And I pull it back, and there's just a spider on the rim of my cup.
Aw. He's trying to give you a kiss.
No, it wasn't one of the cutesy spiders. It
I
wasn't
love spider. There's no such thing as a not cutesy spider. All spiders are
the translucent yellow house spiders. I hate them.
they're fantastic.
I hate those. They're the worst.
Find my
I
spider picture.
let them crawl on me.
I like the jumping spiders though. There's a few. There's one on my front porch.
Look up a Pikachu spider. Yeah, that's cute.
Yeah,
Look
that's
up a Pikachu spider. Seriously, Pikachu spiders are the cutest spiders you will ever see.
What's your favorite type of clown, though? I think that's the real question.
One that doesn't fucking exist.
All right. Any final thoughts before we move on?
No.
Yeah. Next up, Ghost of Tsushima is getting PC trophy support. Ghost of Tsushima will feature a brand new PlayStation overlay. It will provide access to your PSN friends list, trophies, settings, and your PlayStation account. This feature is available on Windows PCs and will be accessible from the in-game menu or for keyboard players by pressing the Shift plus F1 shortcut on your keyboard. It shares the same trophy set as the PS5 game, so it won't have its own individual set. So, like, if you're like me, you've platinumed it on PS5, you won't be able to get a new set of trophies for a platinum on it via the PC version. The PC version releases May 16th. I think this is really cool. I'm interested to see if the games from PlayStation that released on in the past on PC, like Spider-Man, Miles Morales, Ratchet and Clank, Horizon, I wonder if they're going to go back to those and do the same thing for them, because I think it's just as someone who's a big fan of the PlayStation ecosystem, I think it is smart to make it more accessible to people. Mark, what are your thoughts on this?
I mean, I'm not a really big PC gamer guy. Like when I got my new laptop, the reason I went with this one is because the image quality was good, and I could have upgraded to a gaming one, but I just didn't want to spend the extra money just to play some video games when I know all I'm going to play is Terraria. So yeah, it's cool that they're doing that. It's definitely an interesting feature to kind of like connect those things. So like if somebody's like on the go and like they have like a portable PC or something like that, they can still kind of like continue their sort of trophy hunt on the go. That's interesting. But yeah, like gaming on PC is not really a big motivator for me. But yeah,
That's definitely fair. Yeah, just like looking back at it. So it says available on Windows PC. So unfortunately, I'm assuming players on say Steam Deck, since it's Linux and all that, they won't have access to it yet. But like for someone like myself on the Ally, I would have access to it, I believe. John, out of all of us, you are like the PC player. So what are your thoughts on this?
I do like the idea of it. I've never been. There was a time in my life where it was a big like, oh, I need trophies to actually play a game to blah 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 blah. Because I mean, it gives you kind of a reward for playing a game. I'm less into that now. I do still like trophy support, and knowing that I do have the option to either play the game on my PlayStation or PC and still get those trophies is a really cool idea for me too. Um, yeah, I could see that pushing me more towards like actually purchasing these PlayStation games on my PC though, because I do very much prefer playing games on my PC, especially shooters. Mouse and keyboard is just like for me a million times better. So yeah, no, I think it's a really cool idea too.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Like even honestly, the idea of if Ghost works on the Ally, I'm honestly tempted to pick it up just to be able to play it on that in a portable format. Anthony, what are your thoughts on all this?
I think this is great. Like this, they should, before they go crazy, I think they need to go back to the, because like they don't have an incredibly large amount of their library over there right now. So like now is better than any time to do this to the previous titles that they put out on PC before it gets too extensive that it becomes a lot of work and takes forever to do. And then they should just do it for every game going forward. Like it's just a smart thing to do. I don't necessarily. The only question is like, who is this for? In my mind, it's primarily for PS4, PS5 owners that also play on PC. I'm trying to think because like from their perspective, is there somewhere in this equation that they think it could bring PC players over to PS5, which there is, and I'm just not thinking of it. But um, regardless, I think they should do it because as a PS5 user who does have a PC, granted I can't run these games on my PC, but there definitely are people that can, and I think they would. It's just giving the PS5 players that use both systems, the PC and PS5, something just to elevate their experience with their own ecosystem of gaming. So it's great to see. Might not necessarily affect me just because I don't game on PC too much, but anything to move PlayStation in the right direction's great.
Yeah, I could definitely see it being like trying to think of the best way to say it as to what you said in terms of bringing people from PC to PlayStation, maybe exposing them to like a condensed form of that ecosystem if they find any point of it like intriguing. Like for example, somebody like who doesn't have a PlayStation, when they first experience like the trophies via Ghost, maybe they kind of get that dopamine fix and are like, oh, you know what, like maybe I do want to pick up a PlayStation and just like chase some trophies and stuff like that. No, yeah, I'm interested to see going forward. Like you said, for sure they definitely have to go back to the older games, and going forward, any new games for sure should have this feature. But I'd also like to see them do this with partnered developers. So, like for example, the partnership Sony has with Square Enix. So like Remake is on PC now. If they went back and did it for that Final Fantasy VII Remake, and then when Rebirth eventually comes out, you have access to it like that. Almost, I think it's a kind of a good way to not just like sell like the first party exclusives of PlayStation, but the third parties as well, because it makes people go like, oh, like this whole ecosystem I have access to these games on, and these like this trophy system. I think it could be enticing for more of an audience, but I'm interested to see how it develops.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts before we move on?
Nope.
Okay, so I'm going to be upfront. I did not watch the Nintendo Indie World Direct. I pulled the list off of an article, so for all I know, there could be a game on here that wasn't even in the Direct, and it was just getting wrong information. So if anyone did watch it, you're welcome to call me out on it. So the latest Nintendo Indie World Direct had Little Kitty Big City, Yars Rising, Refined Self Personality Test Game, Sticky Business, Anthon Blast, Valley Peaks, Lorelei and the Laser Eyes, Europa, TMNT Splintered Fate, Cat Quest 3, Stitched, Bzzzt. that was a game on that list. Skim, I believe that's how you'd pronounce it. Animal Well, Duck Detective, The Secret Salami, Another Crab's Treasure, SteamWorld Heist 2. Like, genuinely, as someone who did not watch this Nintendo Indie World Direct, I genuinely question the legitimacy of this list of games just based off some of the names on it. I'm gonna go to you first, John, because you tend to be a Nintendo guy. Did any of these catch your interest? Did you watch the Nintendo Direct?
No, I didn't watch it, and the reason I didn't watch it is because Sean was like, "Yeah, it's cats. It's all cats. There's nothing but cats." And and from what I've seen, just like snippets on TikTok and stuff, it's cats and hey, this might be Metroid. Like that's about it.
That's might be Metroid. I like that.
This is kind of Metroid, yeah. No, no, no,
All right,
no.
Anthony, with all these cats, did you check out the Indie Direct?
Yeah, I skimmed through it. Basically, if showcase started and I could generally tell if I was interested within the first 5 seconds, I would just skip forward to the next one. The first one, like the cat in what was the name of it? Cat City?
Untitled Goose Game Cat Edition.
Little Kitty Big City.
Okay, Big C. That does look pretty interesting. Something like I was watching it with Lincoln actually. Something I could see playing with him. Um, but on my own, probably not. But there's some interest there. There was a lot of like side scroller games, which though that genre, I know it within that genre. There's so many different other genres tied to it. But generally, the side scrolling games like View, I just don't have an interest in. So, and there was a lot of those in this. So, but later on, they showed us Cat Quest 3, which I played a lot of the first one on my mobile phone back in the day, and I couldn't play the second one because at the time, because it was before you had access. I don't know if they're both on console now, but I think two is. Um, the second one was locked within Apple Arcade, so it wasn't a game you could buy. You had to subscribe, and I'm not subscribing to Apple Arcade. Or at the time, that was my mentality. So I've never played that one. However, assuming I'm able to skip to 3 without playing 2, I do have some interest in that as well, pending costs. It is a fairly simplistic game, so I can't imagine it being crazy. Um, I started to have interest in the TMNT game, and they instantly lost me when it was a roguelike, which is unfortunate because it looked really cool. But I'm just not down for that.
So you kind of piqued my interest when you said Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is almost.
Yeah, it's I was unclear if it was a roguelite or a roguelike, but either way, generally neither of those interest me, especially roguelike. But roguelite, while I played a few and have had some fun, um, I'm just not looking for that right now. Whereas if it was like a more progression, leveling up and exploring new areas, not just like play till you die, allocate some skills, play till you die, allocate. Like I'm just not looking for something like that. So it was unfortunate, but I was briefly hyped because it does look good. It's no Hades by any means, like visually, but I thought it still looked pretty good. But that's about it for me from the showcase as far as what piqued my interest.
Fair enough. You offered more than I did, so that's totally fair. Mark, did you end up checking this out?
No, I'm sure there are some bangers on there. I know, like I really enjoy. Especially lately, I've been enjoying a lot of the indie developers that have been releasing stuff. But Nintendo, just like my Switch turned on a little bit ago. That's because I was moving some stuff and I knocked my dock over and the Switch slid out, so the screen turned on, and that's probably the first time it's turned on in 3 years. So
Yeah, that's
yeah,
that's totally fair. All right. I think it's safe to say we're good to move on from this one.
yeah.
All right. So, final topic. What are our top 10 favorite games of all time? So, what I think we'll do is we'll go like, so say like we'll go to the first person. They'll give us their list of their 10, and then we'll just have like an open discussion about their choices and all that. So, I'll start us off by picking Mark.
Okie dokie. So I do have some descriptions of why I pick certain games. Well, it's only like really one of them that I have. So the first game I put on my list, like it was like a flip of a coin between Oblivion and Skyrim. I did pick Oblivion specifically because that was the game that pretty much stopped me from being able to ever rent a video game ever again, which is why I have like 150 Xbox 360 games because I enjoyed Oblivion so much and I'd rented it that I'm like, well, I now have to go and buy this game and spend more money. So I'm just going to avoid that and just buy games from now on. Terrible mentality, but it is what it is. So then I have StarCraft, Baldur's Gate, Helldivers 2. I know that's a shocker. I rarely ever mention it. Destiny 2, Halo 3, Gears of War, Lost Odyssey, Infinite Undiscovery, and Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask.
To specify StarCraft 1, Baldur's Gate 3?
Oh yeah, it's StarCraft and Baldur's Gate 3.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, I just want
I
to make sure.
forgot, I forgot to put the numbers.
No worries. I was just like, I feel like it's 3, but I just wanted to clarify.
Yeah, I did not play the first two. I didn't even know Baldur's Gate existed until I heard this hype of this game called Baldur's Gate 3. I'm like, what is this? That's a D&D game. I'm like, well, I'm getting it.
I'm very happy to see Destiny on the list. John, any thoughts on any of Mark's picks?
Yeah, Majora's Mask is a fantastic pick. It's a really good pick. Baldur's Gate 3, yeah, I loved it a lot. I mean, I can't really criticize your list. It's all personal preference. I think they're all fantastic choices. I don't think there's anything on your list that I haven't played either. So, I mean, yeah, it's solid list. Solid list.
Anthony?
So you put Helldivers 2 on there, did you?
Yep.
I mean, it makes sense. I don't think any of us expected you. I mean, I know you were enjoying it when it first came out, but the fact that you're still playing it clearly indicates, like, it definitely fits on that list, I think.
It had to go on list because not even I expected to be still playing this game. Like, I legitimately thought 2-3 weeks tops, and I was going to be done with the game. But now I'm just like, I'm looking at the news. I'm like, oh, we better get that fucking planet.
Yeah.
We got to pull together. Well, so just to go on to Helldivers 2, like the reason why I enjoyed this game so much is like they released a major order and they gave us 6 days to do it. The major order was to kill 2 billion Terminids. 2 billion. So they gave us 6 days to do it. They finished it within 12 hours.
Oh my god.
Yeah, somebody calculated it out. They killed 46,000 Terminids a second.
Jesus.
So yeah, and then Joel released the next major order, which is pretty much everybody. All the memes now currently are pretty much like Joel didn't want to do work this weekend, so this is what happened to us because we finished the last one too quick. The major orders defend 10 planets, and like we've never been able to do 5 planets in the amount of time they gave us to do 10.
Jesus.
Yeah, like it was a surprise to me at how much I actually enjoyed that game.
Nice. What about so I briefly played it back in the day, but I never got into RTS games really at any point. What is it like about StarCraft that
So like I StarCraft was, I think, Warcraft was my first RTS sort of like introduction, but StarCraft, I always enjoyed like the spacey futuristic stuff. And
okay.
like a game, like it was just so much fun. Each of the factions, like Zerg was fun to play, Protoss, Terran, they're all fun to play, but they're all completely different. And like just like the campaigns and the stories, I really enjoyed. So like this is like before I started actually getting in big with like RPG games and stuff like that. This is like my first game that I really experienced with like a compelling story to actually pull me in. And also like I spent so much time just like not even playing online. I did play a lot of online. I never did the competitive shit because I just I could not keep up with the macros and stuff the people who actually cared about it could do. But a lot of the custom games that people would make were a lot of fun. But even just like throwing on uh like a 10 player, like one human, nine computer, like regular game and just like enjoying the chaos of that. Like I spent a lot of time playing that game, and it's like a lot of my favorite characters have come to like Jim Raynor. I think one of our previous topics was some of our favorite like characters in games. Yeah, so like Jim Raynor is one of my favorite guys. It's like just a nice space cowboy, and like a lot of the stories, like the Kerrigan and Rayner storyline is a lot of like it's interesting. They got drama. The dynamics are cool. Yeah, it's just one of the first RTS games that's really pulled me in, and just like I even still play it every now and again. I got it on my Blizzard account, and I'll download it like once a year or so and play through
Fun fact, I only know the name who Kerrigan is because of The Office.
it. Yeah, yeah. Dwight dresses up as Kerrigan.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, but
no,
no, solid list, man.
yeah, definitely solid picks. Back to like the Oblivion Skyrim, like the decision in that. I definitely respect the choice as to why you went Oblivion, because like if I would have picked between the two, I definitely think I would have went the Oblivion route myself too, because I remember borrowing that game and just like a switch flipping, and it's like I was opened up to a whole new world of like RPG potential, and it just because like as
Yeah.
hooked as I got into Skyrim when it came out, like there is something to say with that first experience of just being blown away by it.
I'm pretty sure my first playthrough of Oblivion was it was over 400 hours before I even beat the game. Yeah, so it got me pretty good.
And I definitely like I knew for sure Baldur's Gate 3 would be on that list. It is an incredible game that I sunk a lot of hours into as well. And
It truly is a masterpiece, and like all the awards that it did win, I loved seeing the video game awards and all the memes afterwards of just like, well, the video games award essentially Baldur's Gate. They won like three or four different awards or something, or was it even more than that?
I know
Anyways,
best voice actor or performance and all that, but yeah, no, as like to echo what they said, yeah, definitely solid picks, and I was happy to see Destiny to make that list as well.
I've put way too many hours into Destiny to not on some of my top games. It is definitely the game I have the most hours in of all time for sure.
All right. I'll go next. I'll go next. I went extra, and I did like an order and all that. Um so number 10 is Fire Emblem Awakening for 3DS. Number 9, Call of Duty Black Ops 1. Number 8, Batman Arkham Asylum. Number 7, Final Fantasy Tactics Advanced. Number 6, Kingdom Hearts 2. Number 5, Pokemon Silver Gold Crystal. Number 4, Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic 1. Number 3, Marvel Spider-Man 2. Number 2, Kingdom Hearts 1. And number 1, Destiny 2. Fun fact before I turn it over to you guys, I was talking to Anthony the other day, and he's just like, yeah, I know for sure, like, putting Destiny 2 on the list. And for the life of me, when I was working on this list for like the past couple weeks, I think my mind was in like a single player game aspect. It didn't even register to put like Destiny 2 on the list at the time. Like as soon as he said it, I was like, it was like the meme. It's like at that moment he knew he fucked up. But
I would have been blown away if that was not on your list today.
I'll let Mark. You got any thoughts on it?
I mean, like Blops 1, Jesus, that was a time.
Yeah.
Freaking constantly going through all those zombie maps, getting those Easter eggs done. Jesus, that was many hours, many zombies killed. The list solid list. The one that just like resonated with the most is just thinking back all the fun when I still enjoyed Call of Duty. Black Ops 1 definitely was.
That to me was like the iconic, definitive experience for me because it fired on all cylinders. Of the zombies was iconic, the campaign was fantastic, the story for that one.
Yeah.
And then it had like all like the staple like iconic multiplayer maps that people still play to this day, like Firing Range, Nuketown, and all that. But Anthony, any thoughts on the list?
So I know, generally speaking, from the fan base that Kingdom Hearts 3 wasn't received the greatest, but outside of that, why choose the one you did over, say, like 2? I guess because I don't know if you. I know there's a ton of like other ones, I guess, but between 1 and 2, why choose the first one?
I think I believe me and John have definitely had this conversation. A big thing that ties back to it is the nostalgia of 1, because I remember getting my PS2 for Christmas. I remember going to EB Games the next day and just by out random chance seeing the cover for that game and picking it up. And that was like the game that just like, it was like the Matrix, like red pill, blue pill situation where just like I was just exposed to like a whole new world. Like my life was never the same ever since I played that game. The opening to that game for me will forever be iconic. Like me and John have talked about this plenty of times. Like simple and clean, like getting hit with that, it's just like, what the fuck am I about to get into? Experiencing all these characters for the first time. Even like, well, the game, like, so like 2 definitely has like a far superior, better gameplay. But I think there is still something to be said about the gameplay of 1, considering the time it came out. I think it's fair to say the gameplay for 1 was a little revolutionary for its time compared to like other like RPG experiences at the time. But yeah, like 1 will always be that special place in my heart for me. So that is 100% like one of the main reasons I picked it.
Nice, and probably it's kind of a similar question, but in regards to KOTOR.
So
Like what? Yeah.
I think the main reason I resonate with 1 is mainly Revan. I love Revan as a character. The twist to that story, and also to like, similar to like Kingdom Hearts, that was the first fucking PC game I played all the way through, which is a huge testament for me. Like, and
You
those,
hate Mount.
those games were chunky, so I no, I think, and it's that lightning in a bottle. You experience it, then you find out there's a sequel, and then you just can't wait to go play the sequel. But I think what's different from like the Kingdom Hearts situation is 100%. I love the Revan. Like he's my favorite Star Wars character. John, any thoughts?
So I completely agree with you that Kingdom Hearts 2 like has the better gameplay. But Kingdom Hearts 1 definitely has the better worlds and like connection between like different areas of the worlds. Kingdom Hearts 2 just felt like just oversaturated, I guess. Like they tried to make the worlds as big as possible. Same goes with 3. Is like they made the worlds like as big as possible, but they felt like super empty. I definitely agree with you with the first KOTOR too. Um, because of that story twist and because of the nostalgia of it. Like it was the first KOTOR I played, and like just like you, it was one of the first PC games I played and thoroughly enjoyed it. Um, you also mentioned you like a game called Destiny 2. Why?
It's this like indie game. I just started playing it about like 4,000 hours ago. I don't know. There's just something about it, you know. I think yeah. I think like in like real talk, like I don't think I've ever enjoyed a game's gameplay as much as I do Destiny. Like it's so smooth and fun. Like the gunplay, I love that shit. Even in the off times, I will crave like just like hopping like if I'm not like feeling it, I will crave like hopping back in to just like experience that gunplay.
I can't remember which Fire Emblem you said. Which one was it? Was it
Awakening for 3DS? I was torn
Oh,
between
okay.
that and the GBA Fire Emblem, but I went with Awakening because that revitalized my love for tactics games. Because like when that came out on 3DS, like it had been honestly since Game Boy Advance the last time I played a tactics game.
Okay. Did you play Three Houses at all?
I played Three Houses. I kind of fell off like probably like a quarter through. I don't know why it just didn't click with me. It might have just been the whole focus on like the sim life, like persona like school stuff in between that kind of meshed with it for me.
Yeah. Yeah, I found that did kind of slow things down with the game a little bit, for sure.
I did realize too, Anthony, I didn't like let you like if you had any other questions. I just immediately went to John. Did you have any other
Oh,
ones? Okay.
no, you're good.
I realized after I segued to John, I was like, I probably should have just made sure that Anthony was good before I moved on.
This is
Any more-
censorship, pure and simple, and I will not allow it.
Any more questions, Anthony?
When will you have eggs?
Always. All right. I will let Anthony go next as he's blowing out the smoke.
Hey, John, give me your list.
So, no particular order for mine. I got. Let's see. I just scrolled past it. Fuck. Okay, here it is. All right, you guys ready? Here we go.
Yes.
Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. Now I got 2 listed here. I got to pick one between the 2. Pokemon Silver, or that silver gold crystal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To be fair, Chris did say silver gold crystal.
Because
I think.
it's like the thing where it's tricky, right? Like
Yeah.
it's like it's
Yeah.
the same game. If I picked one, it would be
Yeah.
silver 100%, just because of the
Yeah.
nostalgia.
That'd be crystal for sure.
Suikoden, the first one. Legend of Dragoon. Oblivion.
Ooh.
Borderlands 2. Now this one, it's 2 games, and I'm including the 2. You guys can contest me if you'd like, but you might understand why. Because and the game is Guitar Hero 2 and 3. Now the reason I included the 2 is because aside from the visuals between the 2 games, like the difference in quality, like 3 has a little bit nicer overlay and stuff, they generally are the same game. And the thing is, like, my attachment to them was really the 2 of them together. Not any one in particular. You can make me pick one of the 2 if you want, but I'll leave that decision up to you guys. But let me get through the rest of the list. Destiny 2, Final Fantasy 16, and Monster Hunter Worlds. That is my list.
I'll throw it to
Yeah.
you first, John. Any thoughts?
Monster Hunter Worlds. Did you play any of the previous Monster Hunters to that, or was that like your gateway to Monster Hunter?
That was my gateway. I attempted a couple of the previous ones, and apparently they must have been pretty. Because I remember it was one or two of you guys. I was talking I'm like, yeah, the first one I ever tried was Monster Hunter on PS2, and you guys were like, Monster Hunter isn't on PS. It's only on like handhelds, and I'm like, no, I play on PS2, and I had to look it up, and it is on PS2, but clearly it was not a popular version of the game because like no one seems to like, even when I looked it up, like it wasn't like a hugely popular thing. And I did try one on the PSP when I had modded my PSP in high school. But as I'm sure if anyone owned one, the PSP, it was one analog stick. Uh, so any game with camera movement was fairly rough to use on it. Um, Plus the games are hard. Like I know I'm not the greatest at games, but like from an entry level, like Monster Hunter games are hard too. I'm not saying that's like a Souls-like game, but like they are pretty hard. But I don't know what it was about Monster Hunter Worlds. Like it really just I think comes down to timing, and I remember it because I think you and John and Mark. I don't know if at what point everyone confirmed they were getting it, but I just remember Chris was saying I think because of some of you guys were getting it, he was going to get it. And I'm like, well, at the time I hated buying full price games. And I was like, I'm not going to do it. And then eventually I was like, all right, I'll do it. And I'm like, going into it, I know my previous experiences trying them that they were hard and I stopped, but I'm like, I'm just going to do it. I know I'm going to play it for like a weekend and stop, but I'm just going to do it. And I went with the bow and it just, I kept playing and playing and playing. And even like to a degree, I really think my friendship with you, John, and even Sean to a degree, really stepped forward from my experience with Monster Hunter World. Um, just because like we knew each other, but like we weren't really that close. Like it's not like we played a ton per se, but like just the fact that we gamed together online for a decent amount of time when we played that back then. Um, and the story was great. I think there's probably other better ones, but it was probably the most visually stunning PS4 game I had ever played in the games that I played at the time. I know a lot of people talked about performance issues on the OG PS4, but as someone who never, I think at that time, even played a game in 60 frames, in like frame rates at the time, I was probably like, frame rates, what's that? So uh, it just looked amazing, and just the interactions with like, you're in the desert fighting like uh, a Rathalos, or no, sorry, a Diablos, and all of a sudden a Rathalos flies in and bashes into him, and then the whole ground gives out, and they fall through into this cavern underground. Like so many mind blowing things happen in that game, and just pulling off like crazy stuff. Nergigante, I remember farming him with you guys a bunch. Oh, it was such a good time. Like I look back on that time so fondly. It's not a game like I say have hundreds of hours in. Like I think I only clocked in about 120, 130, but I just cherish the time I had. Like, I don't play hard games. And I'm sure I've talked about this many times here, but I don't play hard games because I get frustrated and I quit. But I was able to get past that hurdle. And I tell you, there's only a few games that I've managed to, but when I come out the other side, it's so satisfying to be able when you do it. And I wish I could push through and do it more often. And this is really, I think, one of the first ones I did that with. And just coupled with the camaraderie of playing with you guys, I could not put it on there. There's other contenders that could have taken the spot, but I had to put it on there, even though like it was really my entry, and ultimately it's why I'm so hyped for Monster Hunter Wilds. So
I
yeah,
definitely agree with you. Like, it is a difficult game, but it's not difficult in the aspect where it's like just a hard game in general. It's difficulty in like the learning curve of the game because you have to actually rely on mastering a certain type of weapon. Like you
yeah,
start with a weapon, you get good with a weapon, you get attached to a weapon, you generally get better with the weapon. Um, Guitar Hero, you picked 2 and 3, right?
yeah,
Um, if you had to choose one of those based on set list alone, which one would you pick?
3,
3. I
hands
agree.
down
Yeah,
3, because
yeah, for sure.
it's a combination of it had The interesting thing with me and Guitar Hero is I didn't necessarily play the songs I liked, like just like the music I liked. I played the songs that were hard because my progression with this game is when I started 2, I was playing on medium difficulty, and by the end, I was playing on expert, and I could beat like every song in the game. I'm not saying I could 5-star every song in the game. Like, it's pretty nutty seeing someone 5-star through the fire and flames. Like,
Yeah.
they are a
Jeez.
robot. Okay,
It happens.
like I know it's crazy. I've I've beaten that song about 4 or 5 times total in my entire life, and it's only been 3 stars every time. Um, but yeah, that 3 just had way more harder songs. And that was where the fun came from. The fun was when I was like at the level of skill I was. The fun I got from it was doing something hard and pulling it off. So like even though like I like trying to think of the set list because I always only remember the hard songs. I'm trying to think of songs I like. Like there's some um, Avenged Sevenfold songs.
Mhm.
Like I think Beast in the Harlot. No, that was 2. I think. Fuck.
Beast of the Harlot was 2. Yeah, I want to
Yeah,
say.
that's what I thought. Yeah, but anyways, there's bands on there that I do like, but the songs were just like not hard enough. So I felt like I was playing like even if it don't get me started on playing on lower difficulties. It is actually hard for me to play on lower difficulties because if I'm so used to like moving, so like I want to move but I'm not supposed to, and then I move and then I fuck up the next note, and it's like I actually do worse on lower difficulties sometimes. Not I couldn't not well. Let's just I haven't played in years, so like I wouldn't be able to do that now. Like there is muscles in your fingers, and I don't have that in my fingers anymore, so I'd have to play a lot to get back to it. But yeah, it was a ton of fun, man. I played for like 3, 4 hours every single day after school for like months and months.
Yeah, I
And
just
it was
looked.
great. Party.
Oh, go ahead.
Well, that was it. I'll just say it was a great party game, which I happen to be good at, so I could show off when we go to people's houses and for parties and shit.
Yeah, I just looked up like both set lists for the games. Just like notable ones for Guitar Hero 3. Before I forget, Slipknot, Black
That was a fun.
Sunshine, White Zombie, Bulls on Parade, Rage Against the Machine, Cult of Personality, Living Color, Even Flow, Pearl Jam, Knights of Sidonia, Muse,
That was
Stricken.
my favorite. Yeah.
The Metal, Tenacious D, Miss
That was a fun.
Murder, AFI.
Yeah.
Uh, just like
There's one in the bonus set. I forget. Yeah, I don't think it's that hard, but it's like Rube, 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 Rube.
Ruby, 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 Ruby. Yeah, I like
fucking
that one. No,
rock.
that was generally just a fun song to play.
Yeah,
This one
but
had,
no,
yeah,
yeah,
3 had a really solid track list, like Slow Ride, School's Out, Sabotage, freaking Rocky Like a Hurricane.
Not to mention, I think they came out with a feature like later on where you could actually like download
yeah,
songs.
Yeah, 3 was the
Yeah.
yeah.
first
So,
game I think that had DLC, I believe.
so I
The
mean,
first,
that was
the first one I bought was the Dragon Force pack,
yeah.
which was insane. Like, there's even some in that pack that I wasn't able to beat, like harder than Through the Fire and Flames.
Oh
It's
yeah, they had
crazy.
the Foo Fighters pack too as well.
That's
Oh,
awesome.
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did
I
buy a
had
360.
just one more quick question. You picked a game called Destiny 2. Why?
Yeah, I mean Destiny 2, man, that came out of nowhere. Like I had experience with first-person shooters purely through like Borderlands 2, which as I talked about before, it's like it's a very forgiving game. It's not hard. Like, but Destiny 2 was described as like just the next game in chronological order of like first-person genre for someone like me and what I was playing, Borderlands 2. And I tried and it wasn't working. Didn't work a couple of times, and then it just eventually worked. And then it was Chris, Chris. You remember he was like, I want the group of us to do a raid for my birthday. And I was like, all right, well, I'm gonna do it because I had the game already because I had tried to get into it. So I'm like, I'll play. I'll level my guy up enough to be strong. Like so I don't. I don't think I had to because the level for it was low, but I'm like, I don't want to be the guy dragging the team down. So I'm going to put time into it to level up so that when we play, I at least have better survivability. And then the day came, we raided, and as we were raiding, we were like, we ended like I was like, there's no way we can beat this. Like I was saying, like my experience with hard games, right? I'm like, I'm gonna stay till we're done trying because it's for Chris's birthday. But I'm like, there's no way we can beat this. It's impossible.
I
And
think
then
that's what stemmed the whole like happy birthday Chris thing with me is
yeah,
Chris had
she was
mentioned that he wanted to raid for his birthday. And we raided the one day and I'm like, happy birthday, Chris. And Chris is like, it's not my birthday.
yeah, yeah. It's just, but that was the thing. By the end of the night, we actually beat it, and I was like, that just like clicked in my head of like, holy fuck. And like I said with Monster Hunter, like accomplishing it just felt so great. So I was like, I want to raid more. And then that just kind of spanned into different aspects, and it brought me closer to you guys and Sean and anyone else that we've had that's come in and out from our team over the last like 3 years. Um, it's just been a great time, and the story is great. Granted, I do generally absorb the story through YouTube videos because at the end of the day, I'm here for the gameplay with Destiny, and I do have a hard time in general following stories, especially if it's like something I'm playing co-op, because like it's really that burst of like the campaign that I'll play solo, but then 80% of when I play Destiny, it's on mic with other people. So I generally don't follow the story intensely in game, but it is generally an awesome story. Um, and yeah, like everyone here says, like the amount of hours at this point is just nutty.
That's a full-on goddamn addiction. Mark, any thoughts on his list?
Yeah. So, what was the first game that you said? I forget what the title
Ocarina of
was.
Time, Legend of Zelda.
Yeah. So, out of that one, like, why that one specifically?
So there's a couple reasons. I mean, the first obvious reason is I never actually played Majora's Mask, which I'm assuming would be the alternative. I know there's other like Link to the Past, which I did play much later. Um, but this one specifically, it was I don't think before I had an N64 that I ever played video games. Period. Like I didn't have access in any way. And then I got an N64 with Super Mario 64 and Ocarina of Time, and that was the only two games I had. And who knew? I did not know as a kid that I just got two of probably the best games of all time. Like based off of rating scores online, I think Ocarina of Time is still the highest rated game ever on
Yeah.
Metacritic. Um, but and it was just I didn't know how to play games, right? So like I played and it was awesome. It was like holy crap, like look at this. And then I got to the Deku Tree, couldn't beat it. No matter how hard I tried, had no idea what to do. I couldn't even get to the boss. Didn't play for weeks. I come back and then I figured it out. And then I get to the boss. It took me my first time beating that game. I think it took me a year. But then I instantly went back and I played the whole thing in like one consecutive sit down, like across like a week or
Yeah.
however long I did it. And I've gone back and redid that like several times over the years. Like I did it when at Shane's house, like when I used to hang out, our friend, well, our acquaintance Shane. I used to hang out with him and Mike, and we just smoke some pot here and there. And I just played through the whole game there. It came out on 3DS. I played through it on there. Um, honestly, if it ever comes to Switch, like not through the thing, but if they do like a physical that I can buy, I'd probably replay it there. Like it's just an awesome game. The unfortunate thing with Majora's Mask, and it's not just Majora's Mask, it's any game that has a similar function, is the time limit you get. It just stresses me out too much to really be able to enjoy the game. So, and I know people are like, "Oh, well, you once you get to a certain point, like it doesn't become as big of a factor." It's like, okay, but I still have to get to that point, and like I almost have to, like I really need to play that game because it is widely considered an insanely good game, and in some cases better than Ocarina of Time. So I really just one day need to go and like basically use a guide to get to that point so that I can just be stress free and enjoy this masterpiece.
So I will let you know the point that they're talking about is essentially the beginning of the game. Because you basically all you have to do is once you get your ocarina, because there's a couple of special songs that like you just have to know how to play, but it's so like the first song you learn is the Song of Time, and then like if you play it backwards, it slows down time. So then you have twice as much time to do everything. If you play each note twice, so like if play the first note twice, second note twice, third note twice, then it skips half a day. So like literally the moment you get it's like the first little bit is you trying to get your instrument back. Once you get your instrument, then you can, as long as you know that how to play the song, you just play it backwards, and then it slows down time, and you have twice as much time to do everything,
So is this
which takes
something?
off a lot of.
Is this something you just know from playing, or does the game teach you this as soon
They
as you get
don't
to the arena?
they
The
don't tell
game
you it
never,
in the game at
yeah, the
all.
game never specifically tells you this.
Oh my
You just kind
god!
of have to figure that out.
And that as a kid, like the internet was around, but I didn't even own a computer back then. So like
Yeah,
that's why when I was saying it took me a year to beat Ocarina, it's because I couldn't just go look up the answer. I'd ask people I knew, and no one around where I lived had the game or at
like
school even.
it might mention it somewhere in the game, but it's like it would definitely be one of those things like where you have to find it. It's not just like you're walking along a road and there's a sign saying "try it this way." Yeah,
Yeah.
it's one of those things like you either figure it out or you don't.
Okay. Well, yeah. Then that'll definitely change things if I get around to trying that. I do have it on 3DS, so maybe I'll give that a
Yeah.
go. But yeah,
So
that's
another so another one which is like me and Chris and you all said like Oblivion is our number one. So what stood out for Oblivion for you specifically?
so I didn't own a 360 or PS3. It was an Xbox that I ended up getting, but I didn't have one till extremely late in life, way past when this game came out. But my friend Dustin had one really early, and he got this game for Christmas. And my relationship with Dustin growing up is I grew up at his house basically. Like I was over there every day till like basically up till I had to go to bed. I would basically just go home to go to bed. Like I don't know how his mom didn't hate me from the amount of food I ate at her house. But um yeah, he got this game and he's like, "Oh, dude, check, like this game looks dope." And then he puts it in. We start it up, and it just broke my brain. Cause like, keep in mind, at home I have an N64, and I think at this point I had a PlayStation One, but I didn't have a PS2. Like I didn't get a PS2 till I think like a year before I got the 360. That's why the middle area between PS1 and then like PS4 is a very dry area for me. I played a lot of games in there, but it was all backloaded near the end. So it's like that's why none of those really made it in here. That too many of them did anyway, because if I did spend time with them, it was like I just blew through it and moved on to the next one. Um, but yeah, it's just the world. Like I didn't know a world this big in one like room basically could it even exist, and just like the leveling system and the lore and the voice acting, like a lot of these things that at this point might just have been a standard in the industry, it was a first time experience for me in gaming in general. And just like Dustin and I playing the same character, just passing the controller back and forth. Like we'd play for an hour, so I'll play for an hour, and we do different things. Like he was like doing quests and stuff. I'd get it. I would just pull out a bow and just go into the wilderness and find like different encampments and stuff, like sneak and shoot stuff. Um, and I loved Skyrim. Don't get me wrong. And if I had to choose between the two in this moment, like with Oblivion existing the way it is now, I would probably choose Skyrim to play, but the one that means the most to me is definitely Oblivion. There's no question.
Yeah, gotcha. So
Yeah.
one more, because Chris had it on his list and you had it on yours, and that series of Pokemon games would actually have been like my pick as well if I did put it on there. So like what about like the silver, gold, crystal sort of set of games stood out to you beyond the other ones?
So it's it kind of leads in from. When I got to this point, I'm like, oh, I have to pick one of the two. The other one was Pokemon Blue, and so part of that one kind of leads into this one, and it's kind of like the story of when I first got my Game Boy, because it was really what kicked it off. Where like this neighbor in the townhouses we lived in was selling a Game Boy Pocket with a Pokemon Yellow for $20, and I like I did not grow up with a lot of money. Like $20 was a lot, and I tried and tried and tried to convince my mom so hard, and she finally agreed, and I got it. Tried Pokemon Yellow, got to Brock, couldn't beat him, never played it again. And then at one point, a neighbor was like, "Oh, I'll trade you Blue for Yellow," and then next thing you know, I'm like not doing my homework ever, like failing, like um, sometimes not even eating. Like they had to like take it away from me so to get me to eat. Um, but they thought it was a great idea for Christmas to give me a Game Boy Color with Pokemon Silver, even though those behaviors were there. But and it was everything I loved about Blue, but that in my opinion, like I know third generation has some pretty dope Pokemon, but to me, the first and second generation are the true generations where like every single one was awesome. Like when you first see it, you're like, "Oh, that's awesome." The third one, like I get a portion, but it's really the first two for me. And that game, it wasn't like it is now, really. Like there were ones that weren't in there, but Silver had the vast majority of both generations. Whereas you get to games like nowadays where like they're missing so many, and I get it because there's so many of them now. And not only does Silver have that, but you beat the game and it's like, oh, by the way, did you want to go and now do the entire old region too? And it just felt like two games in one. So like I could re-experience essentially what I just played through on Blue with all my new Pokemon after playing through this whole thing, the previous region, and it was um it was just interesting too because I had played PS1 a bunch. Like even Suikoden, it's a turn-based game with 6 player parties, so you have 6 party members in combat. But this was like that, but then you can only battle with one at a time. So it was like this combat system too, like that from Blue and then into Silver that I was new to, and then you were limited to like these moves. It wasn't like, oh, you can attack, defend, have all these different abilities, whatever, magic, and all this stuff. So it was just a unique spin on what I had experienced in turn-based combat that really hooked me. And like the customizations, like Suikoden has like 108 playable characters, and this was very much like that, right? But it was like pets, and you could name them, and it was just yeah, like so, Silver. I guess. Sorry, I'm going on long now, but I guess the differentiation, I guess, why I picked Silver is just because it was everything Blue was and more. Um, and that's really the shortest version of why, I guess, after saying the
Nice.
longest version.
A TLDR at the end.
Yeah.
Wait, going back to like silver, gold, and all that. Something I double checked just to look it up. Uh, so silver, gold, crystal had access to, well, like with some caveats, access to the entire 151 Pokédex. Like obviously you had some like version exclusives, and then all the
Yeah.
new Pokemon. Which like yeah, going to Emerald, Ruby, and Sapphire. I think what that third gen, what really killed the momentum for it was that like that was the first time the game had a compromise in terms of the Pokédex, right? You went from like,
Yeah.
oh, they're just adding more and more and more to like, oh, like where's my favorite? Like where's this Pokemon? Where's this? Like these are our favorites, right? Like it's just like, and then yeah, like so yeah, silver and gold were just classics because you could do like the first 8 and the other 8, but yeah, I think
Yeah.
the fact that there's no compromise in the Pokédex was what really stood out to those games.
And shout out to Miltank with his rollout attack. God, took me so many tries to beat him when I was a kid.
So a
Or
question I
her.
got for you, Anthony, is go back to an Anthony pre Borderlands 2, right? 'Cause
All right.
Mindset pre Borderlands 2. Future you goes to you and says, "Hey, two of your favorite games of all time at this point are first person shooters. What is past you's response to that?"
I'd be like, "Get away from me, stranger." No, it would blow my mind because I had tried many. Granted, we're talking like at that time, like N64. Like I had eventually had 007. And I played co-op with friends. I tried this story. I was crap at it. My stepdad was the one that really played it a bunch. Then there was like a couple different games throughout the years. Like I played with friends. Like another N64. I think it was called Perfect Dark, which was
Ooh,
pretty
that's a good
fun
one.
co-op. But yeah, again, I was just bad at it. And then go up into like Splinter Cell. There was a Splinter Cell game in there that was again very bad at it. Get into Halo. It's like Halo was the thing, right? And I'd get together with my friends, and I had buddies who, like, coming from a family didn't have that much money. Their families either were average, or to me, they looked like they just had a ton of money, even though they were probably just average. They have the Xboxes, they have the TVs, they bring them over to each other's houses, and they're landing up Halo. And there's my friends. I go and hang out with them, and I'm like, I hate this. Like, this is like they just kill me, right? I just die. I can't kill them. Like the most fun I had was the honor system zombie mode back in Halo like 2 before it was an official mode. Because it was like it wasn't just cut and dry. Like you go and you shoot them. Like you had to. It was strategic. You had to get, and then you get someone. They change sides, whatever. But either way, shooters just in general, man. Like I was so bad at them. They just didn't give me any fulfillment in any way. Just frustration. Wasn't fun. And fantasy games, they look so cool. Like they had dragons, swords, armor that looked awesome. Like fantastical creatures that could potentially be in your party. Um, and shooters generally either lean to realism or like sci-fi, which in general I'm not a sci-fi fan, though some things have gripped me, like Destiny, for example. But granted, my favorite aspect of Destiny generally comes in with like the Hive and the Taken, which nothing really about those two visually look sci-fi. They're more fantastical, in a sci-fi world, if that makes sense. Um, and even Borderlands, I think what got me there is I loved Diablo games, and the loot and the leveling up was so Diablo-esque that I was willing to put up with the shooting. And like I said, it was a much easier game than Destiny 2. And I play with friends, which is another big part. That is definitely a big aspect for me with a lot of games that mean a lot to me is the connection I have with the people that I played them with at the time. Um, just because it adds a lot more meaning to me, especially for someone who generally isn't a big story guy. Like I play games with stories, like Final Fantasy 16 is on here for obvious reasons. The story was amazing, but like I tried playing God of War, didn't get into it, even though it's one of the highest rated PS4, PS5 game, PS.
Yeah, PS4. It launched on PS4. Yeah.
PS4 games, and it's a beloved game, and I just didn't get into it. And I forget where I was going with all this now, but Destiny 2 is. I would never expected that to be on here, or Borderlands, for that matter. If I was like a 12-year-old right now, which would be weird if I was 12 right now.
Any final thoughts before we move on to John? All right. So, John, what are your top 10 favorite games?
So, what's interesting about my list and how I pick my favorite games isn't based off of like gameplay alone, even though they might be really good games. Um, Mine are all based on like where I was in my life or nostalgia, that kind of reason. So number 10 is Legend of Zelda: Majora's Mask. Uh, Sorry, this list isn't in particular order, so I'll just stop saying the numbers. Final Fantasy 10, Metal Gear Solid 2, Tales of Symphonia, Final Fantasy 14, A Realm Reborn, The Binding of Isaac, Elder Scrolls 3, Morrowind, Sonic Adventure 2 Battle, Banjo Kazooie, and Final Fantasy 8.
Yeah, I'll start us off with the questions. Since we see 3 Final Fantasies on that list, would it be safe to assume that Final Fantasy is your favorite franchise?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay.
I think Final Fantasy was like, it's kind of weird to say Final Fantasy was like my gateway to like RPGs, and like it was the basis for my almost my entire like adult life for gaming and what I go for. I do like just the fantastical stories and like how they're not connected at all. Each game is its own thing. I like the plot twists. I like the sorry, thrown off something happened. Uh, the plot twists. I like the characters are all like weird, cool, like anime spiky hair dudes. Um, like the like each game is like different in gameplay. Like barely any two Final Fantasy connect in that way. Um, yeah, in that aspect, yeah, I would say it is my favorite franchise of all time.
And if from the 3 you listed, you had to pick one as your favorite, which one would you pick?
100% it'd be Final Fantasy VIII.
Nice.
I do believe I have said in the past that like it has not aged well, but again, like I pick my games like my favorites based off of nostalgia and where I was in my life. And Final Fantasy VIII was actually my first Final Fantasy game. Uh, I hadn't played any previously. I think the only time I had ever even heard of Final Fantasy was I was hanging out with my neighbor and he was playing Final Fantasy 7. I wasn't really paying attention to it. Um, Final Fantasy 8 just had like that plot twist, and it's an older game, so I mean, like no like spoilers are really gonna like matter. It's an older game, so it just had like that plot twist that absolutely shocked me. It's like, oh, all the characters are they had known each other in their past, but the summons in the game actually like takes so much of your energy that you start to lose your memories and stuff. So they were all in an orphanage together, and the mistress of the headmistress of the orphanage is actually one of the main villains in the game. Um, that just like blew my fucking 16-year-old mind at the time. Um, the junctioning system, like as shitty as it seems, it was really cool to me at the time too. Um, but yeah, that's why I would definitely pick that one as my favorite.
And then I think my last question before I throw it to one of the other guys would be, you mentioned Sonic Adventure Battle 2. Not so much as like the game itself, a bit of the game. Why specifically that one? And also, I'm trying to think if just random question. If you had to throw another Sonic game on the list, which one would you pick?
So Sonic Adventure 2 Battle, the reason I picked that one is again, um, I did play the first final. Sorry, I almost said Final Fantasy again. I did play the first Sonic Adventure game before, but it was only briefly. And then I think my dad like grabbed that game for me at a Best Buy, and sorry, and I got really attached to it, specifically like the Chow Garden and like the music and everything about that. If I had to put another Sonic game on the list, it'd be Sonic 2 for sure. And even that is like nostalgic based because that's actually one of my first games I've ever played was Sonic 2. So
Okay, all right. Mark, what do you got for questions?
So, didn't pick Oblivion, but you did pick Morrowind. So I actually Morrowind was the first one I tried, but I just didn't really understand how it worked very well. So I didn't have a great experience with it. So I'm just curious as to why this one was your top experience with the Elder Scrolls series.
so that is a good question, and I knew this was coming. I had even mentioned it to you guys during the little break that we took. So Morrowind is a very difficult game to get into, and the reason is it's before the whole like map marker thing where you'd actually have to go to like, oh, you see like a quest and you have the map marker on your like compass or whatever, and you just go towards that map marker. No, this game you actually had to read to actually go find the place that you were looking for. It'd be like, oh yeah, northwest of a cave by um by this town. Um the reason I like that so much is because the discovery uh like it feels like you're actually exploring. It feels like the things that you discover, it's more rewarding in that aspect. Um like I discovered at the beginning of the game, if you go to like a specific tree trunk and look in that tree trunk, there's like a shit ton of gold and like an axe or something that's like super like overpowered. Or like if you walk a certain direction, this character will fall from the sky and you get this scroll that teaches you, or sorry, yeah, you get this scroll that teaches you how to jump like really, really high. I also like there's actually a way to mess with the crafting system and the magic system where you can make a spell that makes you run super fast or like makes you like one shot any enemy with like a fire spell if you're like good enough with like crafting this magic. Um yeah, the discovery of things and like the customization is just 100% why it's my favorite of those games.
That's really the only one I actually had something to say off. All the other ones were pretty good. Final Fantasy X, was that's the one with lightning, right?
No, that's
No,
3.
that's the one with like Tidus and shit.
And
Oh,
Waka.
okay, yeah, I was thinking a completely different one. So yeah, I
No
don't
worries.
have anything to say about that one.
Okay.
I think I only played a little bit of that one. Yeah, so that's the only other one I potentially could have. I just was unsure of which one it was. So that's it for me.
All right, Anthony, what do you got?
So I'm curious. I remember this was one of the games I got on the N64 eventually, and I put a ton of time into it. I'm not really into these kind of games, but back in the day, right, you only have so many games, you can't buy them. So I loved the time I had with it. I do have a connection to this game. I'm curious, John, for Banjo Kazooie, of the games of its peers on the system, why choose Banjo Kazooie?
Oh yeah, this one specifically goes back to like nostalgia. Um, just like there's a lot of mystery behind the game. I'll mention that after, but the main nostalgic point of this game was the time of my life that it was in. I was living with my grandmother, with my brother, and like me and my grandmother had just such a good relationship and stuff, and like she was my parent for a long period of my life, and she passed away. So like whenever I play Banjo Kazooie, like I think about her, and I think about like just me and my little brother like sitting together, him watching me play it, and like us just just chilling, you know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
nice.
Also, like the mystery behind the game, like there's a lot of stuff that's not mentioned in the game. If you enter like certain cheat codes, there's a sand castle in the second level that you can go to. If you enter specific cheat codes, it actually like unlocks hints towards items in the second game. So yeah. So you go into this so basically the start of the game, you start in Banjo's house, right? If you look up at the picture above the fireplace for a certain amount of time, it starts like a puzzle. And you have to finish this puzzle. Once you finish this puzzle, it gives you a cheat code. You go to the sandcastle, enter this cheat code, and there's an item in Banjo Tooie that is like a ice egg. You'll actually it'll actually open up a a hidden area on a certain map, and you can actually go into the area and you'll find the ice egg. Like it's uh, the internet wasn't super accessible to me at the time. I can't remember how I found this out. I think a friend told me about it or something. But yeah, it was just like the mystery behind the game and just the discoveries that you can make uh
Yeah,
really resonated with me.
nice. Yeah, that was a great experience back then, man. I never beat it. I found it pretty tough as a kid, but and it's funny your relationship with the game with describing like your little brother watching. I have a similar experience with Final Fantasy VIII, except I'm the one watching. Like I watched my dad play through Final Fantasy a ton of that game. I don't remember much of it, but I just remember watching him play it a bunch. Um, I'm curious. So I've played several Tales games, but I've never played Tales of Symphonia. What is it? Is it because the game is a better game, or is it similar to Banjo-Kazooie, where it's more of a nostalgia connection for why you picked it?
This one is not so much nostalgia as it is like it being just a good game in general. It was the first Tales game I played. Um, it kind of falls more towards like the Final Fantasy VIII thing, where there's just like the story is phenomenal, and there's just like big plot twists at every corner, and it just hooks you. The gameplay is really good. Um, it's more of a linear like battle system than say like Berseria, or like you can't move around in a 3D plane. It's just like basically like side scrolling. But
Okay.
yeah, the first time I played the game, like I I was grinding like crazy, and I just got super overpowered. And there's like fights that you're supposed to lose, and I ended up like beating the fight. And yeah, no, the game's just good, really good, and the story is really good. I suggest if you haven't played it, it has aged extremely well, so I definitely recommend checking it out.
It's definitely on my like we talked about a couple one of the previous episodes. It's definitely on my list. I just got to figure out what the best way. I think I had mentioned I might have to pull out my GameCube to pop it in through there because
You
it's
can
not.
also there's a PC version you can get on Steam, and you can get it through PS3 as well.
Yeah, I think probably not the PS3 because I think you guys mentioned that one was pretty poopy, like the
Um,
performance. Like one of the
no,
versions available, you guys said was the performance wasn't very good.
no, that was our copy of the game. Because
Oh,
we
okay.
had gotten it from, a thrift shop, basically, and one of the discs was extremely scratched, and
Okay,
how I
that
had to play it was, anytime I would start a battle, it would freeze, and I'd have to open the GameCube, take the disc out, put the disc back in, close the GameCube, and it would go, basically. And like I mentioned, I grinded so much in that game that I actually, like, beat a fight that you're supposed to lose. So you can imagine like how many times I had to actually do that before
yeah.
Sean somehow miraculously fixed it.
The guy's a wizard. Um, so why, Major, as someone who'd never played the game, but loved Ocarina, why Majora's Mask? Or,
Majora's Mask again is nostalgic, but at the same time, it is one game that I have 100%ed like maybe 4 or 5 times.
like,
Um,
what
I
are some aspects of it? Like, if you were to pick three aspects of the game, because I haven't played it, right? And I am interested, but I basically I'm looking for you to sell me on the game. Like
okay.
three big aspects of the game that like, and I don't care about spoilers, unless you deem the spoilers important enough. Uh,
Uh, I mean, it's a Zelda game, so it's not, and it's an early Zelda game, so I mean, the story is not like super important or anything. But the mask collecting and how you get some of these masks is definitely one of my favorite like things about the game. For example, there is an entire quest line, and as Mark was mentioning earlier, you have 3 days, right? Or the game ends, or you can rewind time and blah 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 blah. But there's an entire quest line that spans across these 3 days from start to finish that you have to actually follow to, get this specific mask. Um, and it isn't, like, super difficult, but if you don't know what to do, like you can miss a certain step and then you'd have to start all over. Um, there are a lot of masks that they're not super important to the game, but they do help a lot. Like the bunny ears. The bunny ears
Right.
make you move faster. So you get these bunny ears and you can actually like hop across like bigger gaps because you're moving faster, and you can get like for example in Clocktown there's like a chest with like a lot of rupees, and every time resets you can go back and get this chest and you can actually deposit it, and then so it's a good way to grind for
Or you
rupees.
just accumulate rubies by just doing that over and over.
Yeah,
Yeah, there's
yeah,
like a special bank account that will carry over rupees that you put into it. So like you have to
Okay.
deposit the rupees in order for them to carry over.
yeah. Another thing is, I know I mentioned like I said it's a Zelda games, like early Zelda game, so the story's really not that important. This game has an extremely dark tone to it. Um, there's a lot about death, and actually, if you were to look into it now, there's a lot of like speculation that the game is actually takes place in Link's afterlife. Um, so that like even though the story's not upfront and it's not super important, like you can kind of like just it puts ideas into your head of like what the story could be. You know what I mean? Um the boss battles are phenomenal. Um
Do you
they're
use
extremely
the
fun.
masks in the boss
Yes.
battles?
Yes.
Okay.
So there are technically four but three very specific masks that you get just by playing the story. And each one is very important to boss battle in each dungeon.
I mean, it does sound. Now that I know you can double the time of day,
You can double it,
I
you can
definitely
rewind it, you
am
can slow it
interested.
down.
Yeah. Yeah, that concludes my questioning, and I'm probably gonna look up the best way to play this game.
Actually,
You
so
can emulate it.
I had two final questions for you, John, and Anthony kind of almost beat me to the punch for that one. I was gonna say, would you recommend he emulates it, or would you recommend he plays the 3DS version of it?
I did not like the 3DS version.
Okay, you didn't
Okay.
like it.
I
My
did like
specific
the 3DS version for
A
myself.
lot of people say that. A lot of people say that. My specific reasoning is they changed too much. And the way the game feels on the N64, I mean, it may not have aged well, but I don't understand why they changed the boss battles. Like, I don't understand why they changed the boss battles so drastically when they were so good. Like, originally, they were really good.
I did not actually know that they did that in the 3D. What did
They
they
did.
change?
Just like certain, they made them a little less complex. I guess you can say they made them a little easier.
Okay.
Yeah, like
Well,
certain
now
things that you
you're speaking my language.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, that
Yeah,
might be
you
the
just
most ideal
told
way for
Anthony on
Anthony to
the
play.
3DS version.
like the first boss of the game I could easily like down in like a second. And in the 3DS version there was like steps to it. So,
Okay.
yeah, I didn't like it.
Alright.
Well, I'll look into it because I gotta see if I have my N64 emulator still, or if I deleted all that stuff. And if not, I'll figure it out. Unless someone has a hard copy they want to lend me,
I do not.
fine.
I don't know.
I don't have it.
So, yeah, the other question I was gonna ask is, I think it was the week before, or one time on the podcast we talked about our games, right? Mark, Helldivers is his game. Destiny is clearly my game. For a time, RuneScape was your game, Anthony, right? But I think Destiny has kind of like overtaken it at this point.
Yeah, for sure.
But so my question for you, John, at what moment in time did you realize Final Fantasy 14 was your game?
So, I have a very interesting relationship with Final Fantasy 14. I played it when it first came out and I absolutely hated it. The reason being is I wasn't good at it. and I started playing with a group in a dungeon, and they made fun of me because I couldn't do a specific my role at the time was summoner. And Anthony, I know you played summoner when you played.
Yeah.
But you actually had to move your summons. So my summon was that dungeon with the Marlboro at the end.
Yep.
You know how there's all those like poison pools?
Yeah.
So
You gotta eat the apples.
my summon was in one of those poison pools, and they're like, you need to move your summon. Why aren't you moving your summon? Like, what are you doing? Like, you suck, blah 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 blah.
Oh my god.
So I immediately stopped playing after that. And then I started playing again, and I played as a tank, and I didn't fully understand the role at the time. So I completely fucked up and got made fun of again. And I'm like, wow, this game is trash and people are so toxic. Anyways, later on in life, I heard that they had made quite a few significant updates to the game, and I started playing again, and I ended up playing like a DPS role that wasn't summoner. I think it was Lancer. Yes, it was Lancer. And I just had such a good time with it. I learned the role. I actually like watched YouTube tutorials and like actually learned how to play the role to the best of my ability. And went into some dungeons, had a great time. That stemmed me trying other roles and learning other roles. I moved on to healer. I moved on to tank. I actually like maxed out quite a few roles, as you know, Anthony. Um,
Yeah.
that's when I started realizing that it was my game. Was I actually started learning how to play, and then I got to experience these dungeons, and I got to experience like the game's music, and I actually learned like people aren't as toxic anymore in the game. Like, and it's just like it's super addicting. It's really addicting. Like leveling up and the repetitive things you can do actually aren't boring. Some of them are, but most of them aren't.
I will
Um,
say, I just want to interject real quick.
that's
Some of the
okay.
funnest times I've had on an MMO of this style. So obviously Destiny is very different. But an MMO of this style, more traditional, the funnest times I've ever had in that genre is when me and you queued in for some of like the big raids. Like just the spectacle of those raids, man, blew my
Yeah,
mind. And I've played a good amount. Like I've played World of Warcraft for a decent amount of time. I did a couple raids, but I was blown away by that, man. Like that was such a
yeah.
good time.
There's nothing like queuing into a dungeon and you going through the whole dungeon and then getting to the like last boss of the dungeon and then in a new expansion and then the battle music kicks in for that last boss and you're like, oh, it's
Yeah.
just it's so good. Like the whole experience of it is good.
All right, all right, all right. So I think that wraps it up for everybody. Any final questions for anybody? No, we're
So
good.
Mark,
No. Oh.
you picked a game called Destiny 3 or Destiny 2.
Yeah, I feel
Mark's
like
played it.
Destiny 3 in the future will be a lot of fun, and I know I'm going to like it a lot. So, I mean, why hold back the inevitable, right?
Mark's a time traveler. We learned.
All right. Yeah, so next week we'll be asking Sean the same question. So if you guys can hold on to your lists because when we go to do that topic with him, we'll run through our games again for him.
I'll just
Just
create a funny acronym for my list. Say it.
but yeah, so that wraps everything up for today. This has been the Guy Pie Podcast. I'm Chris. That's Mark.
What is?
Anthony. I think you're
Hi.
on mute.
Hello.
Hello.
And John.
Thank you. Like I had such a good time talking about our top 10 games. I got you again.
All right, that's a wrap.